dans lesquels ce fameux oui peut-être procédé.
How many times are you gonna turn my fucking diesel? Holy fuck, 20 minutes straight. I've cleared so much bad code out of my system, it's ridiculous. What did I say? They're going to try to do this all the way through Premier Sync. This ain't the Premier.
Pour une femme victime de violence, qui est passée ensuite dans la loi, et je trouve que le gouvernement n'avait pas parlé à des du conjoint, peut aussi se retrouver dans les cas d'agression et dans les cas de viol. Donc, notamment avec la contrainte morale, il faudrait en réalité leur donner que c'est une donnée psychologique plus que juridique, c'est plus de formation du personnel juridique pour prendre en compte
Keep it up,
de gros progrès en la matière, effectivement.
Keep admitting that you're a child molester. Keep admitting that you're a child molester by getting pissed off. That you're getting yourself caught cruising. Wrong channel.
We'll get about 180,000 doses of Pfizer, and we will get down slightly, down a lot actually. Moderna reduced from what we anticipated at 90,000. Next week we will receive 47,000, and we will use that for second needles in many arms, and then get into as many new arms as we possibly can. As we roll into March, we'll continue with those programs. But one of the things we really want to do is fully
they have to convince people to get it. Nobody wants it.
We don't think we can get it right in the first week or 10 days of March, but by the middle of March,
they tried.
We want to be able to start
vaccinating. Black people go, oh, look at the black people. They don't want to get the vaccine. You got to tell them to get the vaccine. And everybody said, if the black people don't want it, I don't think I want it either. That's what they did. They tried to call us out.
Or through a phone line.
All you black people are
again. Sending my card out to let them know what to do.
That's not the natives on church groups, community groups, family members. Don't know how a vaccine works. Ask them. They don't know. Ask them why there's mercury in it. People who are suing for billions of dollars for mercury poisoning are lining up to get mercury jammed in their arm. So literally, the only answer can be ignorance. You've got young people that speak English begging and pleading old people that don't speak English to do it.
And finish off that
remote immunity. Yeah, you stay the fuck out of there. We won't get sick. Stupid. It's a $50 fine if you come on there without permission.
Public health units, all 34 of them, and that's the way we're going to roll out the vaccination.
We're going to roll out
through the 34 public health units.
Remember the cops used to do that?
They will work in collaboration with the hospitals in their area. They built that collaboration.
Gang rapes, kidnappings, getting beat the fuck out of.
The family doctors. In their
Rob, for all your personal effects and your gun.
Perhaps using those family doctors and
find your cruiser 2 townships over with no fingerprints on it.
And to put in a mini mass vaccination sites and
stop trying to be us.
Come to that and others and be able to do it in that efficient manner. And they will work with pharmacies in their area of responsibility with whom we are now.
The one thing is, it seems like the ISP wasn't cooperating
this time with all this shit. Through those pharmacies themselves. We work with all
this is some type of security hole from this solar winds, whatever it's called,
bullshit. Knowledge sharing sessions for almost all of them.
That's what happened every time they do it. It's like you can only do it a limited number of times. You're drying heat on it. You won't be able to do it no more.
One of the medical officers of health said to me, "We've got a 3M model. We're going to have mass vaccination sites.
I'm supposed to feel bad that child molesters that get caught being child molesters are mad at me.
We're going to deliver the vaccine in our public health unit
my heart
to the
bleeds.
People for which we have responsibility.
That's
those many vaccination sites,
everything.
That's those family care
so this
providers,
stupid piece,
and the
ITML and whoever the fuck else. You don't need this stupid piece. I know you pay a guy to design this. You don't need it. It does nothing. It's not a part of the mold. No, it's not.
Give us your base number of 10,000
these holes part of the mold, dude. We don't use them for anything.
Get to 10,000 vaccinations per day. As you appreciate some of the smaller, by population, smaller public health units, for them that would be a stretch and probably would never be needed. But we were challenging them to get to 10,000 a day. For some of the bigger population public health units like Toronto, like Ottawa, perhaps like Hamilton or Kingston or London.
Hamilton.
Obviously, we would ask much more, and I know that Dr. Davila and their team are looking at building the capacity of being able to do 400,000 a week, or potentially even more in collaboration with all of those partners, primary caregivers, pharmacies, hospitals, and our own team itself. So our capacity at minimum will be 10,000 vaccinations per day per public health unit. We also asked them to tell us what their maximum could be, and we also asked them to tell us how long it would take to ramp up to the base of 10,000 per day. then how long it would take to go from that base to the maximum, and we're working with them on all
You
these
don't like
things.
the letter
Those
H,
public
eh?
health units are ready. We're going to put over the top of them an information technology system to allow people to come online and reserve, and we're going to augment, complement, supplement that with a customer service desk where people can phone and get information, and we're going to support the public health units in that, and all that information will be coming out in this next 1 to 2 weeks, and we'll be going live during that same time frame and be able to provide the information to those 80-year-olds who I know are waiting to figure out where they can go and when to get their vaccine. We can't tell you exactly that yet, but we will be able to do that very soon. The last thing I would mention is that we're not going to list for a while yet on our Ontario site all of the mass vaccination centers or the vaccination center locations. However, many of the public health units have already done that. Toronto Public Health had a news conference last week and announced where their 9 mass vaccination centers will be, and many of the other public health units have posted that data on their websites, and therefore it is available. When your turn comes down the road here, when your turn comes, you will know where to go. And I'll close here by saying we're ready to do more and do it faster. And we'd love to have more vaccines. We'd love to have a vaccine with a single dose. We'd love to be ready to roll out to give a huge level of protection.
Just only give half of it and run out like you did fucking last time.
Don't ask. You can't stop putting your foot in your mouth. Continuing with those in most vulnerable circumstances as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you.
Are you retired or
We'll go to the phone line for questions. First question, please.
And the guy that's at least slightly better at the job than him, because he keeps his mouth shut, is a 2-star general. So what's his good?
I'm wondering, there are no vaccines that can be given to people under 16 years of age. Are we going to be able to?
What do you think vaccines? It's the same shit. Why not? Is there health side effects or
under
risks?
16 years of age, and or are there plans
Give them half of a
people under
dose.
16 years of age? How are we going to handle that?
I'll hand that over to the Minister of Health.
What are these? I found these in my pocket.
Well, with the vaccines that have already been approved, the Pfizer and Moderna and AstraZeneca, they can't be used for people under 16, but there are other vaccines that are in the pipeline now that we hope will be approved very shortly by Health Canada that may be used for children. So we don't have anything as yet, but as you know, the world of COVID changes very quickly, and we hope that there will be a vaccine soon available that's suitable for children.
Follow-up?
And on another subject altogether, in the news lately, we've seen 7-Eleven applying for liquor license so people can drink beer and wine in their stores, not be able to carry it away. I'm just wondering, if we're going to have beer and wine in the corner stores, why don't we just do it? What's the holdup here?
Yeah, they're applied with the AGCO. I was informed about that a few days back, and they're the agency, as you know, they're going to make that request. And what I really concerns me about that, and again, it's up to the AGCO. I want to help the restaurant folks. We gave the restaurant owners an opportunity to sell beer, wine, and liquor,
and they fucked it up.
A little bit of a boost. But I also believe with our administration that people have to have convenience and choice. We're the only region in the entire world, especially North America, that you just can't walk into a retail store. You can't buy beer. But our goal is to make sure we give people convenience and choice. So let's see what the AGCO says about our friends at 7-Eleven. On a note about 7-Eleven, if you're listening 7-Eleven, I want you to expand. I want you to create more jobs. You're one of the largest convenience store, along with Circle K, in the world. We need you up here. Let's start expanding, creating more jobs, more opportunities for people.
And what's the Japanese convenience store chain?
Matthew Bingley at Global News.
Korean one?
Hi, Matthew.
The province, rather the federal government released some very alarming numbers from the modeling that they've predicted. That if reopening is done at all, we'll see cases just skyrocket up almost at a right angle. This is the second time a warning like this has come with scientific data showing variants and reopening having a potential calamity for the province. And I'm just wondering why you are ignoring these warnings.
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree. Ignoring that, Matthew, I've never, ever, and you can ask Dr. Williams, you can ask anyone on our health table, I've never, from day one, and I never will, ignore the health and science. I listen to Dr. Williams. You know, the local folks will listen to their local medical officer. The feds will listen to their chief medical officer. Let me reassure you once again, whatever Dr. Williams has asked us to do, I have followed. I've never, ever wavered. I never will waver. I'll pass this over to the medical officer minister. Sorry, I'm calling you the medical officer now.
Well, I think it's also really important to note that we're not reopening the province. What we're doing is gradually transitioning back into the framework, and we're doing it very slowly and very cautiously, and as witnessed by the action that was taken today to keep both Peel and Toronto with the stay-at-home order for another 2 weeks. We are very well aware of the variants of concern. We know that the cases can increase quickly, and that's why we're being very slow and very careful at what we're doing. And there's also the emergency brake that can be applied by the Chief Medical Officer of Health in any regions of Ontario where all of a sudden there is an exponential growth in the number of COVID cases. So we have a lot of safeguards in place to prevent that exponential growth from happening.
Follow-up?
You were all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, respectfully, you're saying that you're not reopening, but the modeling data that Ottawa is providing says that if you don't tighten up further, that even with what we have now, it will still see those cases shoot up. So I'm just wondering, Premier, the Prime Minister says that on his call with you last night, he was urging restraint. Was this data not made available to you or Dr. Williams? Because you do say that you are following his advice.
Well, I'll always follow Dr. Williams' advice.
Best before when stored at 0 to 4 degrees Celsius, keep refrigerated.
Matthew, you're kind of
UHT doesn't need to be refrigerated, so why does 7-Eleven put filtered water ice cubes on top of the creamers so you can all fucking touch the same dirty fucking filtered water all day?
Very soon are going to be in complete lockdown. It's as simple as that for the next couple of weeks. And if the mayors and the medical officer of health come to Dr. Williams and say we want to lock down further, we will. But if you want to compare Toronto with the northern regions that are the size of France that may have a few cases, you can't, with a geographical size of Ontario, the vast majority of cases right now, if you're looking, are in Toronto and in Peel, and York is not too far behind them. But again, I will always listen to health and science, and I'll never waver. We will get through this. But we have to be cautious.
And all these other people begging to the government because their business went out of business. This guy got into the business of politics at the best possible time for it in the universe.
Super, super cautious.
Next question.
From Mark McAllister at City News.
Hi, Mark.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. A question for both Premier Ford and perhaps General Hillier, if you can. Right now, it sounds like you're once again aiming very high for preparation and rolling things out, doing more as vaccines become available, and yet you're adding another demographic to phase one, and therefore adding more people that will be in line for those first vaccines. What makes you so confident that it's possible to do both at the same time, have more people while trying to administer some of those limited doses?
Well, before I pass it over to General Hillier, first of all, he's done an incredible job. The whole table has done an incredible job. Everyone across the province
I felt
is helping
tremendously
out, whether it's public health,
I fucked it up less than he did.
Everyone is pitching in, and we've built the infrastructure up that when we have mass vaccination, we'll be upwards to 160,000 a day. And there's no one else in this entire province I trust more in an operational side than General Hillier. Let me just remind you folks, he ran the NATO forces, 21 countries in Afghanistan. There's no one I trust more with logistics, no nonsense, get it done. Here's our time frame than General Hillier as
Afghanistan. We've been there for about 20 years. It's a desert. Color, sand, tan, brown. Uniforms, Canadian Forces, bright jungle green camouflage. 20 years.
In that first phase, and that's not what we're going to be able to do. What we're doing is getting very precise. We are focused very much on
the Russians and the British they were stupid trying it.
And others who are not patient-facing will be a little further down the road here, a few weeks down the road, And we're going to start with the 80-year-olds, and we're not going to be able to get all of them done. There are more than 600,000 80-year-old and plus in Ontario. We've probably been able to vaccinate 10 to 12% of them because obviously many of them are in the long-term care facilities that we've already brought the vaccination program to, or the higher risk or retirement homes. Out of the 775 retirement homes, we're more than 60% complete with a vaccination program for them. So we've got some of them done. That still leaves, though, just over 500,000 80-year-old and above in Ontario that we want to be able to offer the vaccination program to. So we want to get started early. If we should get more than 100,000 done in March, that would be absolutely incredible. And if we can do more than that, that would be wonderful. But we want to get started, and we'll use the vaccines to sort of the best use to get at that most vulnerable group. We know that 80 and over have been visited tragically by COVID-19 more than any other population, and so we wanted to start at it. So we can't get them all done. We can't do everybody. And we'll continue with our healthcare workers and the over 80 through phase 1 into phase 2, and it'll probably continue even a bit after that.
Follow-up?
Thank you. And a question for one of my colleagues with regard to the booking website that will eventually be rolled out. A quick question about the name. We found out that it's being called COVAX On. Does that sound like a clear title for a website that people are going to have to get to and navigate to book their rapid vaccination?
Mr. F, do you want that, or so I want to come to me? Go ahead, General, or Sylvia.
Thanks so much. So it will not be the Thanks so much. It will not be the only pathway for booking your vaccine. As General Hillier has already pointed out, 34 different health units have submitted their plans, and they're all very unique because, frankly, Ontario and our regions are unique. So what they've done is ensure that they are reacting and responding to their local community needs. In terms of the online portal, it is another pathway for Ontario residents to be able to get immediate information and ultimately book their appointments so that they know where the vaccination sites are in their communities, which one is the most convenient, and that's another pathway. But it is not the only pathway to allow people to get the vaccines when we're there. Thank you.
Next question.
From Holly Mackenzie-Sutter at the Canadian Press.
Hi, just asking about the decision to lift loosen some restrictions in York, but the neighboring regions are still shut down.
Strawberry, okay.
We know there's
Fieldberry.
spreading there pretty, there's a high
Look real close. There's a strawberry and the fieldberry.
The local input and look at local health indicators, but what weight do you actually give to the regional picture and trends that might spill over if we do see people traveling from regions with higher rates and that kind of thing?
Yeah, Holly, that's an excellent question, because that's the first thing everyone asks themselves, and myself as well, if we're butt up against York and so
these containers cannot be sold individually. You want to bet? You want to bet? I'm not selling you both of them, so you can buy one or you can fuck off.
14,770,000 of them to follow the protocols and the guidelines.
Give me your yogurt.
We're asking people, please, in the Toronto and Peel and in the North Bay region, please just stay at home. I know it's difficult. Just go out when you have to. And that's really, we can't put up roadblocks and all the rest. It's just not feasible. So again, we're relying on the people of Ontario to follow the protocols. Minister, do you want to add to that?
Well, it is really important for people to stay home as much as possible. This is something that has been ongoing for some time. Until we get a vast number of people vaccinated, that is going to continue to be important. So even as we're gradually transitioning back into the framework, this isn't a reopening, everything's back to normal. Not at all. Please stay in your own region. Please follow the public health measures, and sooner or later, everyone will get to that place, but we don't want people traveling between regions at this point.
Follow-up? Yeah, and just looking at the case of York, that the local medical health officer did ask to be placed in the red zone, and your government, delivered on that request. So, people might argue that the regional data doesn't actually support placing them in the red zone.
Yeah, but the data's not complete. We all know that.
Role to look beyond kind of the local wishes, if it might not be in people's best interest in terms of the pandemic.
Before I pass it over to the Minister of Health again, we really rely on people on the ground, the local medical officers. They know their area better than anyone.
Garbage collectors, snow shovelers, know their area better than guys anyone. That are kicking the garbage and snow
they converse with the chief medical officer, and I know Dr. Williams. He's trying to cover the whole province, and he has great partnerships with all 34 medical officers. So there has to be some sort of trust in these relationships, and they've had a tremendous amount of trust with each other.
That's what breeds corruption.
That's kind of the thought process.
Metastasizing in our society today. Oh, I'm sorry.
The medical officer will go up to the chief medical officer, Dr. Williams. Then comes the cabinet. We make the final decision. I'll pass it over to the Minister of Health.
Well, Dr. Williams has frequent conversations with all of the local medical officers of health because they know what it's like on the ground in their particular area. They know where the outbreaks, if any, are. And Dr. Williams certainly relies on that information to a very large extent. But Dr. Williams and the team also looks at all of the clinical indicators. They look at, first of all, the number of cases, the rate of transmission. They look at whether the public health system in that region can deal with all of the work that they have to do for case and contact management, and the situation with respect to our healthcare system, whether our hospitals could manage the cases that they have. If there's a surge in cases, will they be overwhelmed? So while there is discussion with the local medical officers of health, there is much more that Dr. Williams and his team have to look into in terms of making recommendations to cabinet about where certain regions should be, either staying within the stay-at-home area or moving into the framework at any point.
Last question. From Graham Richardson at CTV Ottawa.
Hey, Graham.
Hi there. I appreciate General Hillier's specificity on 80 plus. So if I heard you right, mid-March, you're going to start, you hope to be done by phase 2. If I'm in my 70s or my 60s, can you ballpark, and I appreciate it's an estimate, could you ballpark when that group would be getting a shot? Are we into April and May, or do you think start of phase 2 will be enough to cover larger groups of people?
How's that, General Hillier?
Graham, thank you for the question. No, we're not going to be into 70s or 65 and 70 or 75 and up in March, that's for sure. We're not going to get all the 80-year-olds and plus done in March. We'd love to be able to do that. We simply don't have the vaccines to do so. So yes, will it be April and May before we get into the next age brackets down and be able to get significant numbers of them vaccinated? Absolutely. It depends. All of it depends on the flow of vaccines. And obviously April and May is when we start to see the bigger numbers of 2.6 or 2.7 million per month start to show. And that would allow us to move very quickly through the population base and work downwards from 80 to 75 to 70 and get those people that are in more vulnerable circumstances because of their age. But it's not going to be in March. It's going to be April and May. Yes.
Follow up?
And just on that same point, from the Prime Minister yesterday talking about 14 million Canadians by end of June. Ontario's share of that would be population-based 40%. Same question for younger people, 40s and 50s. Well into summer, 40s, 50s, down into people, the 30-year-olds, well into summer? Or what could you say about that, where you stand now?
Look, I hate to speculate on those things, so just ballpark them. Well into summer. The number of vaccines, unfortunately, do not support us doing it any faster. You heard the Premier say, I've talked about it numerous times in our updates about the capacity that we've helped build here in Ontario, the incredible medical system, 10,000 a day per public health unit. We'd love to have every one of the public health units, all 34 of them, working at that capacity, and the bigger population-based health units working at much more than that. We simply will not have the vaccines. I don't believe they'll ever get there. And so, yeah, well into summer.
And to follow up on that, if there's 14 million, it's 5.6 million. That's a big chunk of the population that would have vaccinated. And folks, I gotta kind of spin this on a positive note. I know it's in COVID, there's a lot of negativity and so on and so forth, but here's some positive things that we can think about. We're still at the lowest cases per 100,000 than any region our size in North America, even smaller regions in Canada, to the exception of the Maritimes. Those are astounding numbers, and we're just a little bit below. We're a lot below. We're seeing numbers just going way down in long-term care. We're testing upwards. Probably 67% of all rapid tests in the country being done right here in Ontario. We're ramping up to do 1 million tests a week in different sectors, no matter if it's the automotive sector or the meat and poultry manufacturing, long-term care, or education. Guys, you know something? It's tough. But man, everyone in Ontario is doing an incredible job. All you have to do is start going online and start looking at other regions, what they're facing, compared to what each and every one of you have been able to accomplish. You know, I always say I play the smallest part in this. The people of Ontario have done an incredible job. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. We will have companies up and going. And if the Prime Minister can come through with the vaccines, you go to root cause on this whole thing. The root cause. We need more vaccines. More vaccines will solve massive issues. And if he can deliver the 14 million, or at least our share, the 5.6 million, we are going to be in so much better shape, even bridging towards April, May, and June. And, you know, I have confidence that they are going to pull through. But folks, stay positive. We've come such a long way together. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for all the great job our frontline folks have done, and even the average person there sitting at home wondering when this is over.
They're not at home, they're working.
Well, so thank you, folks. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. This is 680 News. You've been listening to the latest COVID-19 briefing from the Ford government. Our full coverage begins now. With breaking news from Premier Ford, as you just heard, he's just announced an extension of the stay-at-home order for Toronto and Peel regions, while York region will be moving to the color-coded framework red zone on Monday.
680's Alex Bloomfield begins our coverage and joins us live with the latest. Alex.
Well, James, Toronto and Peel's medical officers saw the growing shadow of new COVID-19 variants, and still there will be at least 2 more weeks of lockdown. No change in restrictions until at least March the 9th, but it's a real thing for York region. York joining the red zone on Monday, allowing nearly all retailers to reopen at 50% capacity. Restaurants allowed to serve to up to 10 people.
Who it is?
North side of those cities. Premier Ford was asked about inter-regional travel.
We're asking people, please, in the Toronto and Peel and in the North Bay region, please just stay at home.
North Bay and Parry Sound also remaining under lockdown for at least a couple weeks. Concern over variants there. 37 new cases of the B117 variant confirmed today, and about 1,150 total new infections reported by the province. Hospitalizations dropping province-wide down to below 700 for the first time since early December. Reporting live, I'm Alex Bloomfield.
We also heard today from the head of Ontario's vaccination rollout task force, retired General Rick Hillier, discussing the next sector of the population in line for the COVID-19 vaccine.
We don't think we can get at it right in the first week or 10 days of March, but by the middle of March, we want to be able to start vaccinating those 80 years of age and older, and we will be reaching out to them in the next week to 2 weeks to tell them when their opportunity is going to be coming available, where they can go to book their appointments, either online or through a phone line, and where they can get their information. We'll be sending them a card out to let them know what to do.
He says his team has reached out to all public health units to review their vaccination plans. Each public health unit has been told to deliver at least 10,000 doses a day, with much higher numbers in larger cities. As of this morning, the province has fully vaccinated more than 217,000 people.
This is 680 News. Well, as you can imagine, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is responding quickly to the extension of the stay-at-home order in COVID hotspots like Toronto and Peel. 680's Phil Martino joins us live. Phil.
And Kelly, president of the CFIB, says the province's call to keep Toronto, Peel, and North Bay in lockdown is shocking.
It is crazy to me that as COVID numbers continue to drop and hospitalizations continue to fall, that the Premier would give full power to local health officials to keep Toronto and Peel in full lockdown for weeks and weeks more.
Tracy McFarland, who owns Fair Beauty Boutique in the Yonge and Lawrence area, says as a local business owner, she feels frustrated.
But I also understand the predicament that we're in. First and foremost, it's the safety of all of us individuals in the city. But, it is really frustrating because we don't find out until a couple days before whether, we're able to open or not.
Meantime, north of the city, York Region will see the order lift next week as it moves to red. Mary DePete, who owns Michonneau Clothing Boutique in Woodbridge, tells me she's very grateful about and excited about getting the green light to reopen.
I can't wait to get back to it. And we just finished Reynolds. We're just wrapping it up, so I'm extra excited. And again, we're going to take precautions and be extremely safe. But we are so excited to be back at work, me and my staff.
The FIB says as of March 8th, retailers, gyms, and hair salons will have been closed to in-store customers for 105 consecutive days in Toronto and Peel. Indoor dining in Toronto will not have been allowed since October 10th. 149 days. Phil Martino, 680 News.
The City of Toronto now has a court order it hopes will help prevent people from building what it calls unsafe wooden structures and dropping them on city property, including parks. 680's Mark Douglas joins us live with the latest as the city deals with a surge in fires at homeless encampments. Mark.
So, Jen, the City of Toronto says it went to the courts to prevent any more wooden shelters for the homeless from showing up in city parks. In fact, the city filed for a court injunction 5 days before a shelter like that went up in flames on Adelaide Street Wednesday morning, leaving one man dead. City spokesperson Brad Ross says there are still 90 of these wooden shelters dotting the parks around Toronto.
We're not going to go in, and evict somebody from one of these structures who are in them. But when one of these structures is abandoned and there's clearly nobody using it, the city will make every effort to remove it.
Ross reiterates what fire officials said at the scene of the Wednesday fire. Wooden structures like these are not safe. We have reached out to Khalil Stevewright, a Toronto carpenter who's been building wooden shelters like these. We've had no replies so far. Neither Ross nor fire officials have given any indication that the structure that burned up Wednesday was in fact one of Stevewright's. Reporting live, I'm Mark Douglas.
Gas prices are next.
Toronto fans are fired up. The Leafs are back on Sportsnet. This season is on. What do the fans say?
Ruby, Bogosian, Simmons. He just got tough.
You might even say truculent.
We got Jumbo Joe.
When you hear what they think about their rivals,
The price is wrong.
there's no love lost between some rivals.
Battle of Ontario, it's on.
It's on Sportsnet all season long. Sportsnet.
Now the 680 News gas price update. Emperor predicting the price will drop a cent at midnight to just under $1.22 a liter. Traffic and weather together next.
What? Looks like John and Andrea just bought a place.
Wow. That was quick.
Yeah. They've been equestrian for a while. The lower fees make a big difference. They rave about it.
Well, we're not heading back to the branch anytime soon.
Exactly. If we ever want to move, we gotta get moving.
It's time to switch to Questrade. See how you can retire wealthier with a Questwealth Portfolio's RRSP at questrade.com.
Since the dawn of time, humans have been pursuing food. First in open plains and lush forests, and later in the crowded aisles of grocery stores. Today, that pursuit is over. With good food, you can get delicious, ready-to-cook meals like caramelized onion baked cheese tortellini delivered right to your home. Because some things are better left in the past. Good food, eating evolved. Visit makegoodfood.ca. 680 News Time, 2:41.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Brunskis.
And this report is brought to you by Pizza. If you're traveling on the westbound 401, we have problems now at Avenue Road in the express collision in the left lane. It's slow from approaching Young, alternately express and collectors, and then delays west of your Ontario Express, Mavis collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. It's busy on the eastbound 401 from the 427 to Weston, express and collectors. Problems east of Victoria Park Express have cleared. Eastbound 401 at Westney, the right lane and shoulder blocked with a stalled truck, so watch for that. Northbound Don Valley Parkway filling in from Don Mills to York Mills, and also busy on the southbound 404 Don Valley, approaching the Shepherd collectors to the 401 ramps. Leaving downtown, you'll find delays on the westbound Gardner Queenie from approaching Rogers Center to west of Strawn, and it's slow from Trafalgar to west of Dorval as well. And it's, again, just a volume situation. Eastbound QEW is heavy from Royal Windsor to Ford Drive, and there's construction westbound Steeles west of the 400 blocking the right lane. Expect slowdowns from Murray Ross. Now at Pizza, order a large 3-topping pizza and 3 drinks for just $13.99. Yep, you heard correctly, just $13.99. Order online or on the Pizza app. Your next report is at 2:51. And now with the forecast, here is Jason Fraser.
The Greater Toronto area could see just a few flurries develop throughout today. I don't think we'll see much in terms of accumulating snow like we saw yesterday, and we'll go down tonight to a low temperature of -9. But when you factor in the wind chill, it's going to feel closer to -15. Now, tomorrow we'll see a small chance for some flurries, but I think the majority of us will see a mix of sun and clouds and a high temperature near -2 degrees. Our guaranteed high today, -2 degrees.
Now the Dynamic Funds Market Minute to the Business Center. Here's Richard Southern.
Hey, Slajana, good afternoon to you. The TSX is higher. It's up 100 points at 18,374. Dow Jones Industrial Average up just by 5 points. The S&P's down 7. The Nasdaq also lower by 7. Wall Street pretty flat here on a Friday afternoon. Nothing flat about Bitcoin. It continues to rally up to $54,800 US dollars now. Canadian dollar 79.17 cents US. This is 680 News.
When it comes to investing, it's time to consider the alternatives. Dynamic Funds.
Tuna in a can versus going up from the freezer. Like fancy folk eat. Feel good fuel trademark. Fuck off. Santerre planned energy. Thai chili. Oh, I'm sorry. Responsibly caught Thai chili yellowfin tuna steaks. I don't know what that means. There's gonna be shark pieces and dolphins in there. Thaw in water, no. Or in the refrigerator overnight, no. Before cooking, no. You're not getting seared. Cooked by pan or grill. No, you're getting fucking baking pan. Pan, that's a pan. That counts. Cook times result in medium doneness of steak. You can't serve fish medium done. This is why they donated this. You can't tell them to do it this way. It goes against safe food handling, hazard analysis, and critical control points. Fish is hazardous food, so is chicken. You cannot serve it partially cooked. 3.5 minutes on each side. This isn't pre-cooked, is it? There's no way. You cook it for 4 minutes? No. There's something wrong here. Yellowfin tuna steak, water, sugar, thanks. Fish, sugar, tomato paste. So however much tomato paste in there, there's more sugar. Soybean oil, onion, garlic, chili, salt, yeast extract, modified cornstarch. I still don't know what that is. Chili powder. Oh, it's in there. Not nearly as much as there is sugar. Citric acid, paprika color. You cheap bastards. That's red. There's something red. Paprika color, sodium tripolyphosphate. I'm not joking. Sodium tripolyphosphate. Tripoly. I know what polyethylene is. What would tripolyethylene be? Anyway, sodium acid pyrophosphate. I'll say that one again too. Sodium acid pyrophosphate. Contains fish and soy. You didn't know tuna was fish, eh?
From Sportsnet 590 The Fan, here's Alex Xero.
Slojana, Blue Jays right-hander Jordy Moreno says there was a little bit of hesitancy when ramping back up from a sprained finger.
So it was kind of like that for the first, I'd say the first week of throwing sliders.
You can't tell them
it felt great. Then it kind of just progressed from there. From when I was throwing bullpens, I really didn't think about it anymore.
Cook time. It says cook times result.
When you're not thinking about it and it's not in the back
of your mind. It doesn't give you the cook time there. Just do down there.
Didn't even think about it.
And Romano is now a full go in camp. Jays open their spring next Sunday against the Yankees. Raptors in Minnesota
2
on
times 150.
back-to-back.
They're both exactly 150. Are they separately wrapped?
Probable. Kyle Lowry is questionable. 9 o'clock tip on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Well, William Nylander said it best last night. Austin Matthews is simply picking goaltenders apart.
Like all the potential we ever thought he had, it's coming true this year. He's always been marching towards it, but now is the year where you're looking at it and saying the entire package is being unveiled. And I think he's only going to get better.
And there was Elliot Friedman on leadoff. Matthews with 16 goals in 17 games. Toronto and Montreal tomorrow. And the Scotties Tournament of Hearts gets going tonight in Calgary. Rachel Homan's Ontario rank will play their first game tomorrow. Sports at 15 and 45 past every hour or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
It's Dean Sickles here from Willowdale Nissan and High Park Nissan. It's time for 20 for 2020. Willowdale and High Park Nissan have teamed up to acquire an extra 20 2020 Nissan Rogues for a special offer, all part of the Nissan Awards season sales event. The 2020 Nissan Rogue is loaded with innovation that looks out for you. Plus, we have short-term leases to get you through the pandemic without the long-term commitment. Visit me, Dean, at Willowdale Nissan, or my buddy Nick at High Park Nissan to take advantage of these incredible offers.
The 2021 Signature Gala of Black History Month will be virtual this year. Join us online for the Black Diamond Ball fundraiser on Saturday, February 27th at 7 p.m. or watch it on City TV, Sunday, February 28th at 5 p.m. in support of Safe Space 365 and OPADU's Black History Month.
That's why I do all that shit same day, because I know half of it's going to be fucking garbage. You want it? You can find it in the local garbage bin tonight.
Supported by Rogers Communications Group, presented by Art Experiential Projects.
This is your breaking news
don't look like fish, that's why.
News.
Toronto police are now treating the disappearance of a 57-year-old Etobicoke man as a homicide. Nathaniel Bertel was reported missing 4 weeks ago. He was last seen January 21st at his home in the Westona Street and Dixon Road area. You might remember officers went to his rooming house at the start of February and were attacked by another man in the house who had a knife. Investigators then found blood in Nathaniel's room. Police say despite extensive inquiries, they haven't been able to find him, and that combined with evidence from the scene has led them to believe he's been killed. A 33-year-old man arrested at the rooming house is facing several charges related to the confrontation with police, including attempted murder and assault with a weapon. He has not, however, been charged with any counts related to the disappearance. This is 680 News. Prime Minister Trudeau extending key benefits for Canadians through the pandemic. The news comes following the release of new modeling, which is predicting a significant third wave of the virus this spring if more isn't done to stop the spread of variants.
This crisis isn't over. Neither is our support.
That's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as he announced he's increasing the total time Canadians can access the Canada Recovery Benefit and the Caregiving Benefit from 26 weeks to 38 weeks. Employment insurance eligibility and the sickness benefit both basically being doubled as many people across the country still struggle through this pandemic. The announcement came shortly after health officials released new modeling that shows current restrictions are not adequate enough to prevent a third wave driven by the new variants. By mid-March or early April, we could see 20,000 new cases a day. Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Teresa Tam says we need to do more.
Measures must be stronger, stricter, and sustained long enough.
We've currently made some great progress with cases down 60% from a month ago. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Traffic and weather together next.
No.
Well, the numbers are down. The numbers are down. No, they're not. There they are. They're down. No, they're not.
Donate online at carsforkids.ca. That's cars with a K. Pickup is quick and easy. You'll benefit a
And this
child and get a
particular
maximum
disruption of the vortex has been very severe, and it's lasted a long time. It's still going on, and normally they only last for a week or two.
I mean, we actually met about a year ago, and at that time the story was the exact opposite. This polar vortex that you're talking about, as I
inventory, you've got to do deep cleaning. You've got to incur costs and spend money that, quite frankly, most of these businesses don't have to borrow. So clarity, consistency, and please, we've been doing a great job up to now of being in this together, of collaborating and cooperating, and we can't afford this tearing at the seams, because that debate then leads to confidence being crushed, and people say, well, it's actually then it's not science. It's one scientist's opinion against another scientist's opinion, one doctor opinion, and that's not helpful.
You know what? This one you can see.
Let me ask you, when it comes to clarity, do business owners deserve some clarity as to when eventually they'll be allowed to reopen? Because it's kind of interesting, the vernacular in the press release from the government that the stay-at-home order has been extended to at least March the 9th, indicating, I think, to me and to some others, that it possibly could go on even further.
For sure, and it's not even so much a date. Help us to understand then what the figures or rate of growth or rate of decline is required, because we understand it's a crystal ball to pick that date. But if it's at 1,000 cases, was that okay or not? There is that lack of clarity, and we do understand, we do appreciate that we want the second lockdown to be the last lockdown. We want this reopening to stick and be there through to mass vaccination, which is the only, real way to bring that risk down close to zero. So what are the additional measures, investments that have been put in place so that this reopening will be different than the last one? We'd like to see the government commit to more on testing, more in rapid testing, more in tracking and tracing, and then that clarity to tell people, look, you start seeing the numbers heading down towards this. We don't know the precise date, but at least then I can plan, so I can have some milestones to make those decisions. Otherwise, I'm flying blind, and I don't have the resources of government. I can't, borrow, a gajillion dollars. So if you're going to do that, in particular, if you're going to do that and extend my time lockdown through no fault of my own, where are the supports as well, right? What special are we going to do for those businesses who are going to be hit harder, longer than other groups?
Because I think for the small business owner, Rocco, it feels as if the goalposts keep moving, because we heard a few weeks ago 1,000 was sort of the threshold. Now we're a little bit above that today, but we've been below that and in and around that for at least a good week. And do you think that the government has done a good enough job, never mind with clarity, but also working with the small business on what they need to do to be ready when that number, that metric gets hit, the date gets hit to reopen, that they're ready to go when it comes to things like rapid testing, PPE, the amount of distancing for customers, how many people you can have in your place of business, that sort of thing?
We need to do more. As I said before, we've got to be sure that the steps that we have in place are more than what we had before. Because make no mistake, the second lockdown is evidence that the tools we were using before were insufficient to keep the numbers from going up. And now we have more virulent variants. I understand that caution. I understand that concern. And so what are we doing? Some of the things that we've done, which is very positive.
So what's the
We're now doing the testing at the airports. That's a great start. We need testing more extensively in the economy. We also have now vaccinated most of those in long-term care and starting in the older population, the most at risk. That will make things different, because that in and of itself, because of the preponderance of hospitalizations and deaths in particular that are from that segment, that will make the next reopening different in terms of bringing it down. But we need those additional steps, that additional clarity and consistency, so that when the health authorities speak, they are speaking with one voice. We know you're not going to treat Toronto in exactly the same way as Timmins. Get that, understand, more cases here, less there. But in fact, in some of these smaller communities, they may have fewer cases, but they also have less capacity. If there's an outbreak, they can't manage it, and that's why North Bay is also in this mix, because of that exact situation. You've got an outbreak of the variant, and you have relatively limited capacity compared to a bigger city. So I get that, but let's be clear, and let's have the debates. Let's have the debates between the doctors behind doors, and then when they come out, they're giving us one voice, because this is also a lot about confidence. You know, you know me, I'm always, you know, stay positive, test negative. Staying positive requires us to see that consistent measure so that we can have confidence and stay positive, because we have a light at the end of the tunnel. We've now got these vaccines faster than anyone would have predicted in terms of developed. Now we've got to get them delivered.
No, development is easy.
Rocco, let me ask you, I only got about 30 seconds, but when it comes to confidence, where is it at when it comes to small business with the government? At an all-time low, do you think?
All-time low. We surveyed that in December, and it's only gotten worse.
All right, I got to leave it there. Rocco Rossi with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. Rocco, appreciate it as always. Have a safe weekend.
Thank you, sir. Stay positive and test negative regardless.
You bet. All right, have a safe weekend yourself. That does it for my time on this Friday. Thanks as always for yours. I'm Jeff MacArthur. I'll see you Monday morning at 9 on the morning show. And stand by for John Oakley. He's next on Global News Radio.
I'm Carlos Bustamante for ET Canada's Entertainment Minute. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are officially leaving their royal duties behind. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have confirmed they will not be returning as working members of the royal family, with Buckingham Palace stating, quote, "Following conversations with the Duke, the Queen has written confirming that in stepping away from the work of the royal family, it is not possible to continue with the responsibilities and duties that come with a life of public service." Shortly after the palace's announcement, Meghan and Harry released a statement of their own that seemingly addresses the Queen's comment on public service. Quote, "The Duke and Duchess of Sussex remain committed to their duty and service to the UK and around the world. We can all live a life of service. Service is universal." Harry and Meghan, who stepped back from full-time royal duties nearly a year ago, will now be stripped of their royal patronages, with Harry being forced to give up his honorary military titles. For more, head over to etcanada.com and tune in to ET Canada tonight on Global.
Laid off due to COVID-19? You are entitled to full severance pay if you're not recalled to work by your employer. Over 90% of employees are offered much less than they're actually owed. Get the compensation you need. Go to employmentlawyer.ca.
Scoring free gas sure feels like a win. Hi, I'm John from Speedy Glass. And when you book a windshield replacement with us online, you'll get a $25
You're listening to the All News Channel, powered by KCRW.
Jusqu'à minuit. Bonsoir Solène.
Bonsoir Olivier, bonsoir à tous. Il va y avoir du soleil et un air de printemps ce week-end. Il risque aussi d'y avoir quelques apéros. Passé 18h, les autorités veillent au grain. Et en attendant, les gîtes, eux, se frottent les mains en pleine vacances d'hiver, sans resto, sans grand-chose à faire en fait. Le gîte, c'est peut-être la bonne solution. C'est notre dossier de 21h10. Nous revenons aussi dans quelques minutes sur le drame de Pau, le directeur d'un centre d'accueil pour demandeurs d'asile, mortellement poignardé. Et puis dans 20 minutes, comme tous les soirs, le club des correspondants nous emmène au Royaume-Uni, où Uber deviendra peut-être un employeur comme les autres. Et en Chine, où tenez-vous bien, on va au cinéma. Très belle soirée à l'écoute de France Info, il est 21h.
France Info, 21h, Solène Cresson.
Et à 21h, toute l'info, Armel Balogog. Serrer ou desserrer la vis? Question au cœur des interrogations d'Emmanuel Macron. Le président s'est entretenu avec des parlementaires de sa majorité aujourd'hui. Il a évoqué deux scénarios dans des sens complètement opposés. Julie-Marie Lecomte, on note quand même qu'il réfléchit à une sortie éventuelle des restrictions. Alors attention, le président de la République évoque deux scénarios, mais il y a effectivement celui où l'on tient, pour reprendre ces mots rapportés par un participant. Emmanuel Macron explique à ses interlocuteurs qu'il a besoin de 8 à 10 jours pour voir comment la situation évolue, mais dans l'hypothèse où la tendance plutôt baissière enregistrée ces 2 dernières semaines se confirmerait, il juge qu'il est possible d'entrer dans ce qu'il appelle un scénario de résilience et qu'il faut donc travailler dès maintenant sur une sortie des dispositifs de contrainte, raconte un autre invité. Plusieurs parlementaires ont compris qu'il décidera dans 10 à 15 jours. Et évidemment, si au contraire l'épidémie flambe, ce qui n'est pas exclu non plus, le deuxième scénario, c'est de resserrer, soit au niveau national, soit localement. Emmanuel Macron n'a pas prononcé le mot de reconfinement, note un des députés connectés à la réunion. Le choix n'est pas fait, résume un cadre de la majorité, mais à la question de savoir s'il existe une perspective de sortie, dans l'esprit du président, la réponse aujourd'hui, c'est oui. Mais pour l'instant, on n'y est pas. Les restrictions sont bel et bien là et les contrôles sont renforcés ce soir et ce week-end. Les autorités craignent un relâchement porté par les belles températures printanières. Les annulations de festivals se succèdent. Pas de Hellfest à Clisson l'été prochain, pas de cabaret vert à Charleville-Mézières. Trop de contraintes sanitaires, les festivals autorisés, mais uniquement en plein air avec 5000 spectateurs maximum assis et distants.
Les multiculturels sont au front de la pandémie avec ou sans l'aide financière de l'Ontario. Certains reçoivent des fonds par l'entremise d'achats publicitaires de la province, mais d'autres continuent leurs efforts de sensibilisation à la COVID-19 malgré l'absence de cet appui. Christian Roméo Yudje, fondateur et animateur de Radio Kilimanjaro à Mississauga, dénonce ce manque de soutien alors qu'il considère jouer un rôle crucial dans le partage et l'accès à l'information.
On pourrait essayer un potentiel à accéder à des financements qui devraient plutôt aider ces communautés noires, ces communautés racisées, ces communautés ethniques qui en ont tant besoin. Nous continuons notre travail de sensibilisation, continuons d'exister parce que dans certaines circonstances, on aurait carrément fermé, on reste opérationnel malgré les difficultés et à nos propres fonds. Pourtant, nous savons que nous pouvons bénéficier de ces subventions sans personnellement que c'est une injustice.
Près de 6,5 millions de dollars ont été dépensés en publicité dans les médias multiculturels entre avril 2020 et janvier, selon le bureau du Premier ministre de l'Ontario. Le système de réservation d'un hôtel pour les voyageurs qui devront effectuer une quarantaine obligatoire lors de leur retour au pays lundi ne fonctionne pas. Les appels au numéro 800 fournis par l'Agence de la santé publique du Canada ne reçoivent aucune réponse. Le Premier ministre Justin Trudeau a reconnu un peu plus tôt que le nouveau système rencontrait des défis. Marc Véraud a plus de détails.
Impossible de réserver un hôtel via le système téléphonique mis en place par le fédéral.
L'agence pourra seulement vous aider à confirmer une réservation à un lieu d'hébergement approuvé par le gouvernement.
Un long message automatisé de 3 minutes, une douzaine de sonneries, puis on perd la ligne.
We're sorry, there's no answer. This call is being disconnected.
Le premier ministre Justin Trudeau dit que ses fonctionnaires travaillent à résoudre le problème.
Nos fonctionnaires sont en train de travailler très fort pour s'assurer que le système de quarantaine soit en place d'ici lundi. On va continuer de communiquer avec les Canadiens pour les instructions sur comment ils vont pouvoir conformer à ces mesures.
Les hôtels désignés par le gouvernement, il y en a 4 à Montréal, pourront ajuster leurs tarifs selon la durée du séjour. Donc, ils pourraient en coûter moins que les 2 000 $ annoncés par Ottawa pour dissuader les Canadiens de voyager à l'étranger. Ici Marc Véraud, Radio-Canada, Montréal.
La ville de Toronto a déposé une demande d'injonction devant les tribunaux pour interdire la construction de structures en bois dans ces parcs parce qu'elle les juge dangereuses et illégales. Elle mentionne les risques associés à l'utilisation de générateurs à essence ou de bonbonnes de propane, sans compter le manque d'eau courante et de toilettes. Et un sans-abri est mort mercredi dans l'incendie de l'une de ces structures de bois. La Ville rappelle que la Cour supérieure lui a donné raison l'automne dernier lorsqu'elle a décrété que la métropole avait assez de refuges pour sans-abri afin de les empêcher de vivre dans des camps de fortune. Et voilà, c'était les informations.
15h06, nous sommes le vendredi 19 février 2021. Jusqu'à 18h, vous écoutez l'heure de pointe.
Au cours de la première heure de notre émission cet après-midi, on va vous présenter la chronique des nouveautés musicales avec Nicolas Martin. Il sera aussi question du gouvernement fédéral qui dévoile son plan de match pour mieux protéger le français au pays. On va en discuter avec Jean Johnson, président de la Fédération des communautés francophones et acadiennes, la FCFA. Et puis le journaliste Mathieu Simard viendra nous parler d'une journée, ma foi, mouvementée à Queen's Park aujourd'hui. Bonjour tout le monde, bon vendredi. Et oui, Dieu merci, c'est vendredi. J'espère que vous allez bien. C'est Serge Olivier qui vous parle et qui vous accompagne jusqu'à 18h, encore une fois aujourd'hui, avec toute l'équipe de l'heure de pointe qui est fidèle au poste. Abigail Murta, Charlotte Mondou-Fournier et Olivier Mercure. Bonjour à vous trois. Bonjour Serge. Bonjour. Salut. Allô. Alors, aujourd'hui, c'est la journée internationale de la souk à la corde, ou le tir à la corde, si vous préférez. C'est aussi la journée du chocolat à la menthe. Moi, je supporte pas le chocolat à la menthe. J'aime le chocolat, mais pas le chocolat à la menthe. Et je tenais à vous dire, puisqu'on a parlé de Mars hier, à cause de cet engin qui s'est posé sur sa surface, eh bien, imaginez un vendredi sur Mars est 37 minutes plus long que sur la Terre. Aujourd'hui, spécifiquement. Ben, un vendredi sur Mars est 37 minutes plus long que sur la Terre. Donc, tous les vendredis sur Mars, lorsque nous vivons un vendredi sur la Terre, est plus long. J'ai l'impression que c'est du lundi au vendredi. Ou en fait, du dimanche au samedi. Ben là, vous savez, Serge, j'ai eu une grosse semaine, et là, en ce moment, ça me met une bulle au cerveau, ce calcul-là.
And just the intersectionality, there's a word, huh? Right, that we use in a different context here, but a number of things are sort of coming together to play into a narrative that, to me, points a finger very decisively at our Prime Minister.
Oh.
I mean, this idea of lockdown being extended because the variants are out there and it could be hellacious. The numbers, I mean, the projections of the modeling that's just come out. Dr. Teresa Tam pointing that we probably see 20,000 daily cases if public health measures are lifted. There'd be a vertical climb, 20,000 by mid-March. In 3 weeks, we'd see 20,000 a day. So extrapolate from that, 40% of the population in Ontario, about 8,000 a day in Ontario. When we're down around 1,000, give or take.
1,000, give or take. Except for Toronto's numbers, where we've been underreported. We've been under 1,000 per week. Yeah, but you've never told us that you're reporting the correct numbers. What were the?
Under 1,000. But they're saying
today's numbers are like 4, but with a caveat.
Dramatically with the variants that are running around widely out there now, and the transmissibility we know is far greater, and the outcomes can be more severe. My question then is, how come we didn't have this off of the pass? And you know,
right, because you heard that on a cartoon once, and it made sense. What is a pass? Well, head them off at the pass.
I say that dials back to the Prime Minister.
If there was a second way around to get up there, then it wouldn't be the pass. It would be one of the passes.
Federation of Independent Business saying, what are they doing, taking their cues from non-elected officials?
You're taking your cues from a fucking Woody Woodpecker, roadrunner
in Toronto, Low in Mississauga, or in Peel rather, because, well, they have the authority under this Section 22 of the Provincial Health Protection and Promotions Act. So,
what I think when all these people flipping out about mask rules aren't trying to fight the rules on their merits in court, they're just
up the wall trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. And this is where the government, the feds come back into it. Justin Trudeau, again, in his daily briefing, you know, it's like he's Kris Kringle all of a sudden, suggesting that what we're going to do is extend this Canada relief benefit 12 more weeks to 38 in total. So this was sort of an adjunct to the CERB. And so here you go, at a cost of $6.5 billion. No big whoop, right? In terms of all those zeros that are being bandied about. Going to extend EI to 50 weeks now by an additional 24 weeks at a cost of, again, close to $6 billion.
Close to.
And that's
in the neighborhood. In the same, like in the region next door to the region of the neighborhood.
Because we're not preempting the extension the contagion. We're just not nipping it in the bud. To me, it's like those old westerns where you got the stagecoach with the family, and you know the righteous folk are trying to make it to the pass.
The recombination
up the other side or over the hill are the bad guys, the banditos. And there's a race.
Needles.
And this race right now is against the spread of the variants.
Oh,
if we had these
race,
vaccines
bikers,
delivered in a timely
shit,
fashion, got needles into people's arms.
What are you, some fucking drug dealer?
You're
just looking to victimize people. Yeah, they all keep coming back for more, but that doesn't mean that's a way to make money.
This thing off and not have to shutter the businesses for an extended 2 weeks. Sure. Let's wait and see how that works. 2 more weeks, and we're suddenly going to reverse the trend. I'm not buying it, because right now, based on it passed as prologue, we could be in for a longer period of hurt through the month of March. And then we're supposedly, we're seeing the vaccines coming in the hundreds of thousands, and after March, it's supposed to be swamping the provincial capabilities to get these jabs into people's arms, although Hillier did say earlier today, every health unit, of which there are 34, they're going to mandate a minimum of 10,000 being administered on a daily basis, so that's 340 grand. So this is the question, whether or not we can get it all done and expedite it in a timely enough fashion so that we don't have to continue with this
in a timely enough
lockdown
fashion.
stuff that is really,
all over
really
again, like deja vu in the first place, right?
And leading to a lot of madness. Well, by the way, they're going to also extend the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit from 2 to 4 weeks, because as the province
said, coming the wrong way down the escalator at you. Look at you, like
I'm getting kind of testy about all of this. People are saying, well, Doug Ford, you know what you got to do is
reach
make
for
sure
your pockets and your cell phone.
This is the federal facility for it, isn't it? That's what Ford was claiming. They've already put up $1 billion. If nobody's dipping into it, what do you want me to do? So do we replicate that program? Well, that's just a quick aside, because I've got to ask you.
You same idiots ask for a provincial retirement plan because you're stupid.
You know, matter of fact, a lot of people, you know, they're worried about this.
You know those guys that are so bad at managing money, they're the worst?
When it used to be,
they owe more money than anybody else in the world.
You know the Unabomber story? This is an interesting one. A guy who was actually crippled by the Unabomber bomb went off back in the late 80s. He's going to join us a little later in the program. It's well, the anniversary tomorrow when that bomb went off. And Ted Kaczynski, it took years and years and years to find the guy, and he's going to share his story.
Well, you didn't find him. His fucking
by the way, you know,
brother or
that comics whose act is going over like a lead balloon.
If I remember correctly.
Well, there's a story that continues to fascinate and confound at the same time of Mike Ward, a comedian out of Quebec, who apparently picked on a national, or I guess a provincial icon, in a young, disfigured boy who has a rare disease. And as a consequence, he was seen as an untouchable, or he was a vedette, as they call it in the province, La Belle Province, where he was unassailable. And yet the comic went after him. You know, comics being iconoclasts, as it were, no sacred cows. Well, this thing has made its way right up to the Supreme Court of Canada this week. There were arguments being, I guess, put forward.
What does the retarded kid think of it?
To pay the family $35 grand
so sorry.
for this poor kid.
Need like an interpreter?
Who's now an adult, but you know, had
bring me to the Supreme Court
status.
And then somebody will have to learn how to spell my fucking name.
Benedict XVI. He went to Vegas. He sang the national anthem at a Montreal Canadiens game. I mean, he was, you know, lionized around the province, and so this made him, I guess, a sacred cow with a certain immunity card. The Canadian didn't see it that way, or at least he saw it in that regard and decided that that made him
review to the court is in question to extend the call nursing home fire.
A comedic assault, if you will. Long way of saying Julius Gray is going to join us. He's a renowned legal voice when it comes to human rights, having fronted several commissions and having argued before the Supreme Court of Canada no fewer than 50 times. Well, he's back there now in defense of Mike Ward. We're going to get him to weigh in at the bottom of the hour and explain exactly what the defense really is in this regard, and how legitimate that would be, because Julius Gray's contention is if this loses, then there's going to be a certain chill, not just within the comedic profession, but also when you've got people who are expressing themselves, and that expression may tend to, you know, rankle some people or be taken as offense. Where does that leave us? We could be on a slippery slope. So Julius Gray will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. However, before we get to that, in the court of public opinion, I wanted to ask you that question again. I mean, does the latest modeling justify the extended lockdown in Toronto and Peel? I mean, what you've got is a lot of alarmism for sure, but in terms of what we're being told by Eileen de Villa, you know, when she said yesterday or day before that this was the greatest concern she's had in her life about this particular phase of things with the variants. Variants of concern, VOC. Those are the things that are informing the medical health professionals. And so our premier has decided to take it under their advisement. And away we go. Further lockdowns. By the way, the modeling in times past, on a couple of occasions, they've been way off the mark. Never came to pass. And you might say, or they might say in their defense, yeah, well, that's because we got everybody to comply, and through compliance, we tamped the numbers down so that they never did approach what the modeling had shown if they hadn't been dutifully compliant. They say if the models, or the measures rather, are lifted, the modeling will see us by mid-March. That's 3 weeks, 20,000 cases a day in the country. But here's another kicker, too, where the Prime Minister was virtue signaling earlier today. Unless you believe that he's onto something here, he's saying that obviously we need to prioritize the vulnerable, the elderly, the people in the long-term care homes, of which, by the way, 0 deaths in the last 24 hours in Ontario. None in long-term care homes. So obviously, playing a role in that regard. He's also
let me get this straight. For a year straight, you killed all the people you could kill. And now that it's stopped, obviously it's the vaccine did that.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute, we're to send vaccines, our excess supply, which we haven't totally exhausted because it hasn't come here yet, going to start sending it offshore before your loved ones and mine get the jab in the arm? I don't think so. But again, maybe there's a globalist impulse to the guy. I don't know. You tell me. But we're going to start with this one, open lines, as I like to hear from people on the Vox Populi. The latest modeling, does it justify the extended lockdowns? They've just been wrong before, but they're saying now, well, there's a different factor in the equation. Therefore, we cannot trifle with this. And I just think if we're going to, and we have become dutiful in our regard, and people who are going to disregard this are going to disregard regardless, right? Everybody else is tacking to the best public health protocols, have been for the longest time. You've got to give some breathing room to the businesses, give them a shot at opening with very limited capacity. And that's about the only thing that was distinguishing us in this gray lockdown zone here in Toronto, Peel, and York. York's going red. Why can't we do the same? Then you're going to get border hoppers anyway. I don't know. This seems like madness to me. And I believe, again, I'll dial it back to the Prime Minister. If he had done his dutiful, responsible thing and procured these vaccines instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket, the Chinese basket, right now. So if you think I'm wrong, and I think that's the
With all due disregard.
With all due respect, I don't have pity for none of you godless heathens. That's just the way I feel.
Regardlessly, with all due diligence.
With all due respect.
Hello. This call
is a scam from the CRA. Don't give them anything. Ever. Take everything you can get from them. Don't give them anything back. Fuck them. The Commercial Rent Assistance Program. Justin Trudeau's emergency Canadian craft. Thank you.
Niggas sleeping on me, wake up, I'm out in the casket. Fucking yellow gold, why my neck look like an omelet? I'm like MJ, and these niggas said it's bombing. Niggas still don't care, really, they're right up that bombing. I'ma hit his block, walk up, really ride it. I'm like MJ, and these niggas said it's bombing. Niggas still don't care, really, they're right up. What's wrong with these Dennis Rodman?
Oh, come on.
Nigga like me, man.
First, we celebrate.
Gunshot liquor,
50 drum beating like sofa. Out in Trinidad where my boy smoke a coca. Your homie got hit, he was riding like the chauffeur. Planet of the Apes, I was blood clot coca. Puff pop, come with a strap, swing off the shoulder. In the coffin, shutting the letters, giving you closure. You ever get close, something coming out the holster. People ride the train, they're gonna see you on a poster. We poster, but you never talking when we approach. Get the black go online and now you're doing the most. Kill him in my yard, nigga, like I could host. Didn't notice they pull guns when you thought you could roast. Just a dose. Know you love niggas, need some milligrams. Sitting with a milli, he be posting it on Instagram. Them dust heads love me, selling quarters out the kilogram. Chrome polish so good, swear I used to pillow pack, baby. Fried chicken, oxtail gravy, shaking up the ground like an earthquake in Haiti. Stop running rappers like how you niggas don't save me, you got it. Metro cell trying to play me. Said I wasn't sick, but I'm sick though. I give you gangster rap, our calypso. We never stop beating like it's a pit bull. And young boy can't stop squeezing, he got his we with the hammers. Shreddy in the kitchen, chicken like Louisiana. I kill her like Diana. I go to sleep with a rifle in my pajamas. I was childish, but my Gambino, no Atlanta.
Gunshot for your head top. For ground level TG.
Man, them niggas that we beefing is so lame. I run with them clips, my gun black and I spit like Kobe. 4 white boys who let it sing like Coldplay. I sat back and had a flashback on my old ways. Like blocker. 30 shots up in the fucking chopper. He got shot but shot back and couldn't see the doctor. Nigga bled out, cause nigga how it's better. Remembering the day my brother got it, couldn't get up. So I went and got a Mac 11, just a wet up. And 2 bad light-skinned bitches for the setup. My city getting crazy and nigga. Moms losing their babies. I know the fiends have to carry my nigga to a place to get to bury my nigga. Fuck, but since then, we got a couple heads to bury the trigger. It's like what I keep a gun for. Cause in these streets, it's a blood sport. Not to mention links from the gun store. You shouldn't have died in here. They're catching bodies here. As soon as niggas slap that metal on that wall of mirror. I need no one. I'll blast it by myself. And I'll keep beating metal to the plastic on the nose. Suicides to the pin break. Niggas been fake. And my pocket is that big chain. Shotgun test, head off his body. But I'm a top gamer. You know me, I'll take his head off his body. Full shirt looking like ketchup. Fuck for the ketchup. Found that at the scene. No need for a stretcher.
I've been up for about 24 of these hours.
Gunshot liquor, 50
drum beating like so.
The fuck are they doing? Priceless. The fuck are they doing to the building? Jesus, because I can't count how many times I'm pressing the fucking button. That's how fucking stupid I am. You can hear it clicking. Jesus Christ. Oh, he's right. We better stop doing this. Every time you do that, they're just logging your IP address, trying to figure out where the fuck you are. They get better at it every time somebody does that, because there's only so many ways to get away with it. If you're the biggest fish in the pond, you're the next one to go.
This week we take a summer trip to visit our
You just hate marijuana. Why? Because the kids that smoke don't get in, do they?
And this is Big Mom Matters, a podcast about Big Mom people,
Why don't you just
politics,
stop the music if you're so, like, what's the deal? I'm supposed to take the hint that when you're unhappy, I should change my behavior, right? So what's the deal here? Okay, that works. I've pressed it about 8 times on this one track.
Mi'kmaq and Donald Trump's U.S. of A. This week we take a summer trip to visit our Mi'kmaq relatives across the border in the state of Maine. I'm glad Mi'kmaq Matters, a podcast about Mi'kmaq people, X, land, and water.
That's not how the application works. That's not how the application works. Did you hear what's happening? I haven't held up in about a minute and a half, bro. Yeah, show me more pictures of my eyes closed, bro. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. What does that mean? What does that mean, bro? What does that mean, bro? Well, you've got some sort of retardation in your brain, so. Well, you've got some type of retardation in your brain, bro, so I'm going to keep repeating it slowly so it sinks in. Showing me a picture of me with my eyes closed means what? You're trying to make me change behavior, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What's the threat, bro? You don't die with your eyes open. You don't sleep with your eyes closed. You don't sleep that way, so what the fuck are you talking about? How many hours you slept in the last 2 days, bro?
That's the motto we live by.
And because the last 2 days.
I tell these niggas act sick like my niggas won't air you or talk till you see me.
This is the pathology. This is the pathology. Even the delay is getting longer on my system. Keep it up. Keep it up. I'm going to stop that for a second. I verbally told you what I'm doing. That was real. I actually pressed it this time. No, you're not going to let it stop.
Now I'm back to the wall, fighting my inner demons. Like, what's the meaning of it all?
Just so you can. Well, I can't see it again. See? Keep it up, bro. I know we've been at this about 15 minutes to hear a 4-minute song. I know it's ridiculous. So every time you jam this up and freeze it up, I'll just stop because you're the simpleton that needs me to repeat this over and over. We don't care what you think or what you do. You're using cut and paste codes you found on the dark web where child molesters hang out. You keep getting angry every time I say that and fucking up parts of my system, but you're not a hacker, so you can't do any damage. And there's nothing important on this because a fucking TV set. So you found those codes thinking you're going to use them to track down little kids and harass them through the TV set and make their grandparents think they're crazy and all this other shit. And all I do is sit here and repeat that until you realize how fucking close you are to getting picked up by Interpol. Toronto Police Ice Squad doesn't fuck around, stupid. So if you're done, now see, I don't know if the video's running or not. Sometimes when it keep it up, the eyes closed, right? You keep telling me about the eyes closed thing. What does that mean, Doc? Why don't you leave more messages like you do? You get mad. We know who it is from what you're fucking doing. If I turn on the radio station and they're talking about black culture, my whole system will fuck up for the next 20 minutes. But it's not hacking. And there's consequences. Like, if you take me offline, you don't hear what I'm saying. If you're supposed to be spying and watching what I'm doing, and then I'm not communicating with my people, we already have contingency plans. So we already have contingency plans, so you're not stopping anything. So about 8 times in the last minute, I've seen a frozen picture of me with my eyes edited shut. Keep it up, dog. Keep it up. If I say click real loud, will the music start playing again? Because we've got them with that before, too. That was 6 fucking months ago. That's how long they've been doing this. That's when the solar winds thing fucking happened. It didn't happen last week when they started talking about it. It's called a rat trap. You can't help yourselves. There is no help for your kind. There is no help for you. Okay, you've got no reason for why you're bothering us except we don't like child molesters.
Cause I don't know what to believe in. The reason I'm breathing seems to be misleading.
So if you're fucking done, I'm still gonna smoke the joint. But you flip out on every, keep it up. That's 3 in a row right there. You flip out every fucking time I light a split.
The realest to do it, so no denying you feel it. I kill it every time. With a militant mind, I drop bombs when I rhyme. You can feel it on the front line. Prime time lyricist. Yeah, I'm big killer.
And now they're smashing walls with a hammer again. I smoked 2 full cigarettes waiting to hit that joint. I wasn't joking. I really pressed the button when I yelled out quit. I hadn't, so believe what you want. I'm literally trying to skip 10 tracks. We're 8 tracks. I'm literally trying to skip 10 tracks. We're 8. Keep it up. We're 8 tracks through. So now we'll be at the beginning
This
of this
week,
one. No,
more
we
about
skipped
Hallelujah
2.
First Nation and the Blueberry Blunder. Where to from here? And with
How do we end up back here? And if you really want to know, that this has been happening for about 6 months. Every time I hit this, every time it's a girl's voice singing, these people hit the fucking fan. If I'm smoking a joint or if I'm, they'll listen to dudes say stupid shit all day. These are misogynists. These are dudes that hate women.
I'm from the West End.
Same thing with what I try playing anything in French. They used to go ape shit for that. Because I was a French station. I guess they thought I was trying to learn French from the United Nations. But I never said that. These are people that don't know me say they know this and that, and my name is something else. And I'm this and I'm these idiots, blah, 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 in person and on these chat things here on this channel. Don't waste your time looking for it. Hundreds of retracted comments. Because, you know, if you're retracted, YouTube won't know you said something.
Telling me nothing, I knew from a youngin' that I be the one I hit starting. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the birds and you act like you came up from nothing. Shout out to my niggas on the plaza, lane to connections outside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better have grabber. I never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Wallahi, my Molly's a warrior. Abdi Muhammad Mustafa. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shopper. Tell him the truth. Tell him the truth. These rappers, they lie in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's that got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof.
So if you do enough of those
we got the juice. We got the
denialist service
so
type things, your own ISP will cut you off at some point.
I'm from the
They're sex offenders, pathological, they have no self-control. They're not hackers trying to steal your credit card number.
I'm from the
We've had them type audio through here, we've had them shut off the audio, close the tabs, black out the screen, turn off the camera, make it so the camera won't turn off, make it so the machine won't restart, make it so it shuts down and won't start up again. Refusing to clear the memory no matter how many times I clear the apps and start over, they're all loaded again with garbage. Over and over and over. But the simplicity of the box is such that if you cut the power and turn it back on, it goes back to default. It's like the router, it's like the TV.
I'm too wavy, make her get me wanna date me. I got the sauce, gravy, more than they cannot replace me.
Now we know they had access to something back because it was coming. There was even the ISP was fucking around to like give 20-minute waits to get connected. 20 seconds. That's
I'm from the West End, so you claim you a bad man.
That stopped happening. That's so that whatever hack that just happened, that this guy started talking about, affected almost every company out there.
I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying?
That's why they're not talking about it laying blame. They're just fixing fix. All these idiots looking on the dark web for these codes or whatever it is they're doing in these chat rooms. I haven't seen the messages. I don't peruse that shit. I can only presume they're meeting up somewhere on the internet to talk this shit. And what do? I try to share the news from around the world. And irony, it's kind of like the starfish thing. They used to cut starfish into pieces because they thought they ate all the fish. But when you cut them into pieces, they all grow into a new starfish. Instead of one long dumbass video, now I got hundreds of short ones. That's not my intention.
Where you at? Hit me up for the money, for the stash. Get us paper, get us cash. No, we here with my niggas in the trash. Put it in, flip it quick, get it back. Add me up with my niggas in the room. Cleaning up, sweeping up with a broom. Run it up, run it up, run it up. Double cup, double cup, double cup. So I got a couple racks today. Didn't think I made it, but I made it back today. Cashing out in the bank every day. Put in work, get paid. Where my niggas at? Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. I just wanna party, like I
That
won
don't
the
look like
lottery.
fake. I don't know what that is. And it's got more sugar than anything else. That's weird.
Just got off the plane, juice all in my veins.
Feed it to the restaurants and neighborhood
No one know
cats.
these flames. Fucking Friday night, I ain't playing no games. I'm that West End chick that was raised in the lane. Had to get you up with me, pay up, just raise the fee. They call it, but they can't get a hold of me. Freestyle Friday, BET, raise a bar for the scene. If the work ain't clean, don't come for me. They show up before, but they wanna come around. I'ma ride this way till the water run out. I'ma spark this place till the fire burn out. Just come up before, but I'm most done now. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery.
Man, those speakers sound bad. Very not good in that form.
I feel the stuff, all God, but I feel the take to go on. I'm in together. You cutting heads out, you worried if you cut from the same cloth. You was playing Game Boy, niggas was playing Game God. Niggas melly rock on your block with a chain on. Just to get hit up, can't make it. Like Trayvon, just stay calm. Niggas got yang on, the stove top. Metal like Crayons, turning them heat rays on. They paid on, debts and purchase more. Thought they only wanted 2 ounces for purchase for. You know we only wanted new houses that's on the shore. But my lawyer gotta study evidence in the court. 2-door sport in the coop, playing these greasy loops. After every time I shoot, that ski mask turn to a tool. Still running that nation of domination for Rook. P89 and the barrel slide is too cute. Hit up in the dome when he tried ducking. Still better than just standing there and trying nothing. Kill them little pups, I'm a G-dog. I have him in the streets playing leapfrog. American muscle over a Tesla. Pulling up the bulldog, work like a president. Let me tell you how it niggas ain't real. I shot at your food like a meal. Let me tell you.
We always make distinctions. I don't think that was contested. Everybody makes distinctions every day. We say this is good, this is bad, this is a good restaurant, this is a bad one.
There was another drag on it.
A good book, this is
progressively less and less.
And turning equality into a muzzle would be most unfortunate for freedom of expression.
By the same token, is it suggesting that Mike Ward played no favorites? He was, as I said earlier, an equal opportunity offender. In some ways, that's his defense. Like, hey.
That was the position I took.
Type that in, M-A-R-K-M-O-O-R-E. Look that up.
Were attacked in the same way.
And then
now the court will decide whether that was so or not. But I
2016, they're picking up people, a gang of people who randomly killing people.
There. He's simply, it's an art form, stand-up comedy, and it's a hard, cruel art form. People don't laugh unless there's something there that they gasp first and then they laugh. And so given
this
this
problem under the category of comedy is everything that people want to suppress the powers of people who were
discussed by him
could have making allowances for things that you can't make apologetics for.
In some way missed. But whether that amounts to either discrimination or breach of equality or breach of dignity,
what's the retarded kid thing?
What was an issue.
I call them retarded, but I want to know the things. All these people talking about it.
And in any case, the dignity was not breached and not objectively breached.
I'm guessing, though, you concede there are points where limits on free speech are justifiable.
Yes, well, it's been held by the Supreme Court, hate legislation, and in very extreme cases, but very extreme cases only, obscenity legislation, things that are really absolutely disgusting. But the court has made it clear most things are not child pornography, things like that. Yes, everybody agrees with that. But nobody suggests.
I'm so old. I remember when they had to come up with child exploitation legislation. I read about that in the paper.
Tantamount to either hate or obscenity.
Mr. Gray, you're saying that any ruling against your client could lead to a chill. How so?
Well, that was the argument I made. Once again, the court will decide or not. But I think when freedom of speech, and let's become general again, any violation of freedom of expression, saying that you can't say certain things, unless it's extremely precise, like hate or obscenity, and the court was very precise, leads to a chill, and then people start asking themselves, can I say this? If I go on stage and I make this type of fun, which lobby is going to think that they're offended? Can I joke about foreign policy? Can I joke about the Ukraine? Can I joke about the Middle East? Can I joke about men or women? People are going to be more careful, and that's what I said in an article I wrote once, that we're going to, if we limit freedom of expression to any perceptible extent, we're going to end up with a society of careful conformists.
Which is why I believe this to be such an important case as well. Why did it take so long? Yeah, why did it take so long to get to court to this level?
Oh, to get to this level, it takes a long time. Nobody's to blame for that. First, you have the hearing, and then you have to.
Everybody was to blame. I thought we were all responsible. I'm not responsible
either. This started in 2010. The act in 2010, and I guess
off my shoulders. But that was not when the case started. The case started, I believe, don't quote me on this, 2012 or 2013. You had to go through the first instance tribunal. The Human Rights Commission does an investigation, and there's a Human Rights Tribunal. Then you go to the Court of Appeal. No, it takes it takes some time, and even the Supreme Court is rather quick. It's less than a year.
I guess what I'm saying is that Mike Ward's been involved in this for at least 7-8 years now. If I can ask, who's funding him? I'm familiar with the comedy beat, and unless you're doing arena shows,
I'm not free to discuss that. And I think you can take for granted that these important cases have to, for artists, etc., usually end up before the courts. But I'm not going to discuss funding.
Nope, but I appreciate that. I guess indirectly that's an answer anyway. Mr. Gray, it's a real pleasure to have you on, and an honor as well. Good luck with the case. As I said, I think it's that significant. Appreciate you joining us. Stay well.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Julius Gray again, partner with the Montreal law firm Gray Casgrain, and lawyer for Mike Ward. That is an important case. I'll bring it up again with the panel. That's coming up a little later in the program. I want to get back to the people we were talking about earlier with the extended lockdown here in Toronto and Peel.
I didn't even notice
after 4 o'clock, we got topics worthy of destruction, a little bit of madness for a Friday, and also one of the survivors of the Unabomber back in the late 80s. An anniversary date looms tomorrow. He's going to share his, that whole tragedy as it came to be, though, very positive outcome. All that more in moments, 15 before the top of the hour. Right now, back to the roads. We're going to check a chopper traffic. Ari Rabinovich.
On the South 404 collectors approaching the 401, we did have a collision here in the left lane earlier. It has now been cleared. It's still busy from Finch, mostly in the collector options towards the 401. If you're staying with the southbound DVP, it's moving well through the 401 junction, but there's a problem spot southbound on the DVP past Don Mills, and it's a crash block in the left lane with delays from just south of the Eglinton. And also problems on the West QEW at Ford Drive. Got a right lane block here with a stall. Receive rates as low as 0% or savings up to $5,000 on select 2020 vehicles during the Land Rover Only Adventure sales event. Contact your Land Rover authorized retailer for details. I'm Ari Urbanovich, Global News Radio 640 Toronto, chopper traffic.
The new Samsung Galaxy S21 5G is now available at Freedom. Get it with select unlimited data plans and save up to $840. Visit freedommobile.ca for details. Conditions apply.
Keep cozy with Pizzaville's Pizza and Wings Special. Get a large 3-topping pizza and 8 wings or boneless chicken poppers for only $21.99. Contactless delivery available. Order online at pizzaville.ca or on the Pizzaville app.
Videos were upbeat and fun. He offers tips on certain routes to his viewers, and they give him support on a journey that's long, cold, and isolating. But as winter sets in Europe, something has changed.
For anyone who is 15 or 16 and watching these videos, I don't advise them to take this route. I tell people the truth so that they won't make the same mistakes as me.
The following day, we hoped to meet Ammar again, but he didn't show up. He sent us this voice note. He said some of the people he was traveling with were angry that he'd spoken to us.
When we crossed the border, we're in the middle of nowhere. One of them could attack me, and
Santa Monica.
Leaving school and enjoy your life today. But the Scotiabank Savings Accelerator account can help. For a limited time, earn 1.5% interest to help grow your TFSA or RRSP faster. So you can accelerate towards what your head is planned for tomorrow and let your heart enjoy what it needs today. Visit scotiabank.com/accelerate to open a Savings Accelerator account today. Conditions apply. Interest is calculated daily.
As students return to classrooms, we have taken steps to help ensure schools have been made as safe as possible. Ontario's School Safety Plan has been developed in consultation with the Chief Medical Officer of Health. Further protections to prevent the spread of COVID-19 include strengthened masking requirements, enhanced cleaning, expanded targeted testing, and stricter student screening. To learn more about school health and safety measures, please visit ontario.ca/reopening schools, paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Join the conversation by calling 416-870-6400. This is the John Oakley Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Dozen minutes away from the news at the top of the hour. By the way, the news is kind of just the same kind of depressing thing that we've anticipated, and I guess we've lived under for the last, however long it's been. I've lost track of time. Extended lockdowns in Toronto and Peel, but not York, and neighboring regions, I guess, are going to be concerned about migration. But, you know, just talking to Julius Gray, I wanted to give you the heads up in the event that you want to reprise it. It's going to be available in its entirety on the Oakley Show podcast, which you can find on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Go to Oakley Show Global News into Google. You can't miss it. Boy, that's a real change.
No, you can't say that because you're going to now you're reposting. They repost from you to them to you to them to you.
A box of, well, my old memorabilia, let's call it, from the comedy days back in Montreal, and got a lot of 8x10s, including Joe Rogan, a young Joe Rogan, who used to come there, and Jon Stewart, Norm Macdonald, and the like, and as well in that box were a bunch of musty 78s that I had secured because I think I got them at a flea market or something, because I've got a couple of gramophones. And what's interesting, I was just thinking about that because today, this was the date, way back when, in 1878, that Thomas Edison patented the gramophone.
And or the phonograph, I guess they called it at the time. This was a device that could both record and play back sound. And you think about that as a monumental development in terms of mass communication. It's almost like Gutenberg, you know, with the Bible that he cranked out on the printing press. It just revolutionized everything. So in Edison-like form, whenever you've got, you know, people inventing different modes of transmission, this guy was like ground zero for this pop culture way of expressing and music and all the rest of that. So I was just thinking, out of a lack of anything better to do, because I don't have a lot of time, and I don't want to drill down on, you know, the vaccine rollout or the number of COVID cases and why the modeling is showing that we've got to go into an extended lockdown. Otherwise, it's going to be 20,000 cases a day. So says the modeling by mid-March, no less, which is all too familiar a refrain. But be that as it may, what's the first record you ever owned? I'm kind of curious because, and it might not be a 78, could be a 45. You remember those with the little plastic disc in the middle? Yeah, and they would flip down on your record player. Then the 33 and the third came along. And of course, it's come back too, in spades in large measure, I guess, because DJs have found that the sound is easier to manipulate, you know, rather than shuttling something digitally. You can actually, you know, do the scratching and all the rest. So it's become very big in hip hop, and I think it's rekindled it. Now, I was reading somewhere recently where I think the numbers of
you heard about this last week in 1987. Hey, it's still in his head at some point.
It's unprecedented.
It's Adidas rap commercial.
The highest number in the last 20, 25 years. So people are sort of reverting to that as a form of listening to music. And many people would say it is a warmer sound. And again, now, unless, of course, you play the grooves right off the thing, right, you don't have good anti-skate on your turntable, and so you load it up with a stack of pennies, which was always a nightmare to do. Oh, geez, I remember years and years ago doing some disc jockeying as I was getting into the radio business and weddings, playing weddings and things like that. And the anti-skate was off on the turntable, and we did have a whack of pennies, a whole darn row of copper pennies to load this thing down, and it was a mess. You know, as the bride and groom were dancing and kicking up a storm, the flooring wasn't that good, wasn't that solid, so I was knocking the needle out of the groove, and I guess whatever it was, it's not a fond memory I have. I think I've shared that story in the past where we got the records confused. My buddy at the time was helping me out, Charles and I, and the song that the bride had requested went missing. And so instead, they ended up dancing their wedding song to Sweet Home Alabama by Skinner. Very embarrassing. We weren't laughing at the time, but on the way home we sure did. Anyway, first record you ever owned? I'm kind of curious.
The audio files, they always got a cassette or a CD or something.
I've got about a half a dozen minutes here to find out what it is that actually you put into your plastic milk carton.
On cassette yet.
It was a reverential kind of a thing.
1989 Cuba.
Remember some of those plastic milk cartons that you used to log to a buddy's place or a party or whatever? You'd have a stack of things. Stacks and stacks of hot wax, as they say. Michael Downey tells me his first record, Black Sabbath, Volume 4. Okay. You know what? I like those cheeky bands that would come out with the album that was like Volume 6, but it was their first album. Anyway, let me get Graham in here first off on the Opie Show. Hey, Graham, good afternoon.
We were going to do number one.
Hi, John. Great day for Talk Radio.
Thank you. How about the first piece of vinyl that you ever got your hands on?
That was the 45 by the Kinks, Lola.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, they were talking transgenderism well before it became vogue, right?
Yeah, I was always going to be on the cutting edge.
And it was a 45, though, right?
Armis Brooks.
45.
Yeah, I like the Davies brothers. They used to have punch-ups on stage, you know. They never got up there well before the Oasis guys, who were just flops compared to the Davies brothers, Ray and Dave Davies. Love the song Lola. Yep. Very good. Thank you, Graham, for that. I'm putting you circa early to mid-70s. Arthur and Etobicoke, your turn. Go ahead. You're on the Opie Show. What was that first disc?
Hey, Johnny, still relevant today was Marvin Gaye, What's Going On?
Absolutely. Very relevant. And that was about his brother in Vietnam, right? Almost an anthem for that time. Tell me, baby, what's going on, brother? I can't sing it now, but that was a song that was indicative of a lot of
Vietnam,
social unrest and people wanting answers. It's also like Buffalo Spring, but it's worth. That was another one at the time. Thank you, Arthur, for that. And the top.
I didn't say any of that, Mr.
You bought,
Censor. You said it.
Yeah, it was actually. I thought save us.
Save. Wow. Now you're scratching my old memory nugget here. I guess it was kind of like a Kmart for its day or a Walmart, right?
Yeah, great Canadian institution.
All right, falling by the boards. Thanks, Arthur and Etobicoke. How about Gail in Toronto? Let's go to Gail. What was that first piece of vinyl? Because again, this was the date back in 1878. Our buddy Thomas Edison did the phonograph, and it's revolutionized the way we listen to music. Gail, go ahead. What was that first one?
My first record was sung by Rosemary Clooney. It was called Fuzzy Wuzzy Was a Bear.
Oh, and he wasn't very fuzzy, was he, or something like that?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I remember my babysitter telling me something along those lines. I didn't remember the song, but I remembered, where she would sort of recite it as a poem. Anyway,
I still have it.
Do you?
Now I'm going to have to try and find it.
Oh, wow. Was it a 45 or was it a 78?
The 78.
Wow, Rosemary Clooney. That's going back to like just post-war, wasn't it?
The early 50s.
All right. Well, there you go. That's post-war. Depends which war you want to pick. That's right. World War 2.4, the Korean struggle. All right, Gail. Thanks so much. You go look for that record now. All right? Bye-bye. If you find it, let me know. Yeah, peace out. Karen in Toronto. Hello, Karen. Your turn. Oakley Show. What was that first piece of vinyl you got your mitts on?
I bought Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty.
Fake views.
Oh, you did? Were you a big Tom Petty fan?
Reviews.
No, I
you
mean,
can review
probably
a
like
reviewer
a few songs of it, but yeah, at the time. But now you got me listening to records, and I'm actually looking for Destroyer in the collection.
Thumbs up.
Kiss Destroyer.
Now you're gonna fake
a buddy of mine has, no word of a lie, the second largest Kiss memorabilia collection in the world.
Kiss Army.
And it's got to be worth, I don't know, 7 figures anyway. But that's because Gene Simmons, just anything that he can get his hands on, he can monetize, and he's done that. But all right, so you're a Tom Petty. That was just the first album. It wasn't really out of love or anything. That was just the first. It was an album that you bought on vinyl, right?
Yeah, because I think I was a teenager, so it was just one of those things. I haven't paid money to buy a record.
Where did you buy it, by the way?
Maybe one of the lawyers.
Oh, probably downtown. Like, we had a lot of record stores downtown, right?
You're right. There was Sam's and there was Sunrise.
Yep.
There was right there on the Young Street Strip. And I think the Sam sign is still in storage somewhere. I think Ryerson University's got a hold of it. Thanks, Karen, for waiting.
It's up there. It's I'm hanging up. It's just
there's traditional,
right where public health is, like
English and then simplified English.
Yeah, that's it. What was I saying? Because I remember I was going to the theater down the road there, the Mirvish Theater, and I saw it up there. What was I saying? I was lying to you. Yes, it is up. It's up and running. Thanks, Karen, so much for weighing in. Brian in Grimsby wants to weigh in next here on the Oakley Show. Brian, how about it? What was that first tune that you bought?
Johnny, you have sparked the memory. All I ever tell my kids and my wife was, I lived in Hamilton, Ancaster. I had to walk to Lime Ridge Mall. I bought
if I ran North Korea,
LP, and then the next one was Steve Miller Band. But then you jogged my memory. Who was about 10 years older than me. She gave me a 45 of Wild Cherry, Play That Funky Music.
White boy, right?
A white boy, right? And like 5 years ago, I thought everyone was black in that band. Nobody's black. Everybody's white. It's the best. It's the best song ever. And I brought it home. My dad was 41 when I was born in '65. We were listening to Glenn Miller and Acrobilk and World War II stuff. And I brought this thing home. I didn't know, because we had the record player that was this oak wood thing with speakers and an old television in it with the record player on the top.
Yeah, console.
Giant, right? The console.
Now we get toast on
the top. I didn't know you had to have the plastic insert. So I'm like, Dad, how do I play this? He's putting these big, 33 and a half bits on. I'm like, So I had to finally find for my cousin this red plastic thing to put on the point. I could play this, and of course, so my dad's 55 years old, and I'm listening to play that funky music, and of course he loses his mind.
He thought you got a black girl pregnant,
Right, it's
and
a
you
bit
were
of a
hooked on
departure
heroin.
from Actor Bill, for crying out loud.
Actor Bill and Glenn Miller and everything else and whatever.
That's only because Dragnet told him that.
Right. Well, yeah, I can't remember. White Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah, that'd be about the right 41.
Brian, I gotta let you go, bud.
Okay, all right.
You're well from the Hammer. Don't forget to pick up "Picture My Face" by Frankie Venom and Teenage Head. Let's get back into it. Hour 2 awaits. Oakland Show, Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
Let's head out to the roads and check on the drive with chopper traffic. Here's Ari Rabinovich.
Danny, thank you. We did have 2 collisions on the southbound DVP at Don Mills, and they are now both cleared away. But we still are seeing some slowdowns on the southbound 404 DVP, starting from about Shepherd and the collectors to the 401. Typical volume.
States said on Thursday that it is ready to restart talks with Iran after the Trump administration left the Iran nuclear deal. It is not yet clear, though, whether Iran will agree. Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said on Twitter that Iran wants the United States to first lift sanctions imposed by former President Donald Trump. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
The South Carolina law that bans most abortions is now suspended just one day after Governor Henry McMaster signed it. Today, a federal judge granted Planned Parenthood's request for a temporary restraining order. The first such legal fight of 2021, signaling a looming battle for the Biden administration and anti-abortion rights advocates who are looking to a now mostly conservative U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, the landmark decision that legalized abortion nationwide. More than 30 state legislatures have introduced legislation to crack down on voting rights after the 2020 election, according to the Brennan Center for Justice. That includes Georgia, where Republican lawmakers are pushing measures to limit early in-person and absentee voting. Georgia Public Broadcasting, Stephen Fowler has more.
The Brennan Center analysis finds 33 states have introduced more than 165 bills aimed at restricting voting, nearly 5 times as many as this time last year. They range from stricter voter ID for absentee ballots to eliminating automatic voter registration. In Georgia, the Republican-controlled State House and State Senate have several proposals working their way through committees. One would end no-excuse absentee voting. Others would severely limit the use of drop boxes and cut back on in-person early voting, including a ban on Sunday voting that sees higher black turnout. The 2020 election saw record participation, driven by an increase in vote by mail because of the coronavirus pandemic. For NPR News, I'm Stephen Fowler in Atlanta.
This is NPR News. The clean water crisis is affecting more than 14 million people in Texas, one of the cascading effects of this week's winter deep freeze. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality says, as of yesterday afternoon, more than 1,000 public water systems and roughly half of the counties in Texas had reported operational disruptions. With infrastructure damage caused by this week's stretch of historically low temperatures, at least 7 million people are being told to boil their tap water. Some households don't even have water service. President Biden has promised more federal help to Texas. The state says electricity has been restored to a majority of residents, some of whom were facing life and death situations without electricity and heat. Alabama's mourning the death of lifelong civil rights activist Eileen Walbert at the age of 100. Walbert was a white woman who made fighting for racial equality her life's work. Today, Pierre of member station WBHM reports.
Eileen Walbert got involved in the civil rights movement in the mid-50s. She and her husband moved to Birmingham from New York. Walbert was heavily involved in school desegregation, recruiting at least a dozen black students to integrate schools in the Birmingham suburb of Homewood. She and her family opened their home to civil rights activists for meetings ahead of marches in the area, which was heavily frowned upon. Walbert was also involved with Concerned White Citizens of Alabama, a group of allies who supported voting rights for black people and racial equality. The group marched in Selma the day before the historic events of Bloody Sunday.
That's Janae reporting. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include 101 Studios, presenting Dara of Jasenovic, based on the true story of hope and survival during the Holocaust, as told through the eyes of a child. Now playing in select theaters.
Oh, that helps me.
You're listening to KCRW, nonprofit public radio fueled and funded by members right here in Southern California and all over the world, like Ramsey from Hollywood. Thank you for your support, Ramsey. KCRW members enjoy a thriving community, and you are welcome here too.
At the same fewer than 33,000 active cases in Canada, a 60% drop compared to a month ago. Pfizer and BioNTech say their COVID-19 vaccine can now safely be stored in regular freezers for up to 2 weeks, rather than the ultra-low temperature freezers that have been made shipping and distributing the vaccine incredibly difficult. Health Minister Patty Hyde says that Health Canada regulators are already in talks with the companies about the matter and will be ready to make a decision when the request comes.
Pfizer has not applied yet to Canada for that regulatory change. However, we stand by ready to assess it when they apply.
Pfizer's vaccine has been the trickiest to handle because until now, the company said it had to be kept frozen between -60 and -80 Celsius until shortly before it's thawed and injected. The GTA's top stories on demand. Set your Alexa flash briefing to play 640 Toronto. Sprained left thumb will keep Kyle Lowry out of the Raptors road game tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. It'll be his second missed game
following him fucking up his
impeachment trial. 57 senators voted to convict, including 7 Republicans, but that did not meet the 2/3 threshold. And on Saturday, there was this kind of odd episode where senators voted to call witnesses, and then a few hours later, it was decided that there wouldn't be witnesses after all. They would take one written witness statement and end the trial that day instead of taking...
Philippe Châtel. Émilie avait 3 ans, elle tournait autour du piano et un jour elle m'a demandé une chanson de lapin. Alors j'ai fait la chanson de la compagnie des Pablo. Après elle m'a demandé une chanson de hérisson, etc. Puis je me suis pris au jeu et j'ai écrit une histoire. J'ai mis un personnage des contes comme le loup, la sorcière, et puis après avec nos inventions, j'ai écrit pour le roman. Et la chanson principale.
Ross reiterates what fire officials said, scene of the Wednesday fire. Wooden structures like these are simply not safe to live in, and if people leave them for the shelter system, they gain access to medical care, food, clean clothing, and more. Now, we have reached out to Khalil Steve Wright, the Toronto carpenter who's been building wooden shelters like these. No reply so far. Neither Ross nor fire officials have given any indication that the structure that burned up Wednesday was actually one of Steve Wright's. Reporting live, I'm Mark Douglas.
And we'll check gas next.
This is 680 News. Scott McGilvery here. I've done hundreds of home renovations over the years, and I'm particularly careful about what I put under the floors. On my projects, I use DMX One Step 2.0. This easy-to-install underlayment has an air gap design that allows moisture to evaporate, and it doesn't require wood subfloors, which can be a food source for mold growth. DMX One Step can be used under most vinyl or laminate floors, so whatever you choose, you know your investment will be protected. DMX One Step 2.0. No mold, no cold. Find it at the Home Depot.
Now, 680 News, gas price update. Enpro predicts the price will fall a cent at midnight to about $1.21.9.
RRSP season is here. Consider Israel Bonds for your RRSP and tax-free savings account. Israel Bonds are now paying up to 3.30% in Canadian dollars, subject to conditions. Israel Bonds are sold in Canada by Canada Israel Securities Limited, a registered exempt market.
The city should be on at 4. Watch, it won't be at 4. It was at 3, right? Or 5.
News from the head guy at the Canadian Federation of Independent Business.
Just think, if I'm purposely trying to keep up with this, and I can't keep up with their scheduling, how the fuck are the regular people who are busy all fucking day for the most part? They're gonna. They don't want people to hear. They don't want people to know.
First to procure, then of course to deliver to the provinces. And the provinces, they say they're poised. They ran out of.
Yeah, everybody knows how to be a drug dealer.
Earlier today, saying, "Geez, we did everything lined up so that we're going to have a minimum of 10,000 vaccinations taking place in each of the 34 health units." So they're good to go. So they claim. We'll see if they actually let us down with that expectation. then they'll be in for a hell of recrimination and also criticism. But now, the criticisms that I guess are going towards Ray are somewhat disingenuous or unfair. I'll tell you why. Because on the one hand, if you read the Toronto Star and some of their op-ed pieces, and then the comments in the aftermath, they will point out how Doug Ford is a friend of business, and he puts business before the health considerations of the people of Ontario. So they're reaming him on that front.
And then,
meanwhile, on the other side, the business people are saying, what are you doing shutting us down? Taking your cues from unelected health officials. Where does the guy go to win?
Health officials probably shouldn't be elected. If you don't have...
Now, that may be something that doesn't fit well with you, depending on which side of the equation you favor. But either way, he's going to get a full barrel of it. And I'm just saying, in some cases, he's been put in an untenable position because our Prime Minister failed in the procurement of the vaccines in a timely fashion. We might have had enough jabs in arms so that we could, well, like the long-term care scenario right now, as tragic and as horrific as it's been, to get down to 0 deaths on a daily basis, that's a pretty good baseline. And that's because the vulnerable have already had the vaccination. And we've already learned to continue on that front. We've done our duty. And if we could do that in a wholesale way, in a broader context, beyond just, the people in long-term care, but again, the vulnerable, those with comorbidities, those that are 70 plus, the next cohort, I think, are going to be the 80 plus, but nonetheless, you get how it works. If we've had enough that we could get a critical mass of people vaccinated, this might not have been the concern or consideration that it is to put us into a continued lockdown, further eroding any sense that a business can survive. And then you've got extended government programs, meaning the taxpayer is going to have to fund the extension to EI up to 50 weeks now, increasing it by 24 weeks. Prime Minister was happy to herald that arrival today, and the Canada Relief benefit could be extended by 12 weeks. So it's now up to 38. And the paid sick days, they're going to double that up from 2 weeks of paid sick to 4 weeks. Well, a lot of this stuff could have been perhaps, mitigated anyway, but we don't have the vaccines in a timely fashion. That, to me, is really where the rubber meets the road. But okay, if you want to say, yeah, Doug Ford, it's your fault, you put us into lockdown, I understand the sentiment. I mean, there are going to be scapegoats all around, and people are going to point fingers. I'm just curious where you're going to point yours. In a moment, we're going to talk to a businessman, Steve Long, with Long & McQuaid Musical Instruments. Tell us what it's done for his business or to his business. Needless to say, I've got friends. Everybody has somebody, I guess, they know in their family or an acquaintance that is in a business, maybe working in a business, no longer working. And these businesses have been struggling to stay afloat, or they've gone under, already taken on too much water. It's not viable, untenable. So if this is a case that, Doug Ford has done you wrong by not allowing you to open at least in a limited capacity, is it on him or is it on the Prime Minister? You tell me. I'll take some calls. 870-6400. Just wanted to hear from you by way of feedback. And then at the bottom of the hour, we'll get around to a little mirth in the midst of all of this doom and gloom with our topics worthy of discussion. Peter Wildman and Tristan Hopper from the National Post. Right now, go to you. I wanted to get your thoughts and whether you believe that small business is really being victimized here. And Doug Ford has let you down, or you think it's because further up the food chain, when we've got a federal leader who hasn't really been dutiful in getting the vaccines to us, as other countries have already seen, and are enjoying some degree of immunity, if you will, certainly to a greater extent than we in Canada. What are we at? 1.38 million jabs so far to this point.
Wow.
I don't know. Pitiful as far as I can say. 870-6400. Let me take some calls and get your thoughts on it quickly, and then we'll get to a business person who can tell us firsthand account of what it's like on a daily basis trying to sustain the business that you built up over, well, in the case of Long & McQuaid, it's been decades. What do you do to hang on? Can it all be online?
It's SARS-CoV 2.1.
Some may prosper. There are others where the sit-down experience is really what they got as a value proposition, and if that ain't happening,
the new hybrid versions that are like the best of both worlds or whatever.
And I see all these government programs now being extended.
Wow.
Anyway, the Conference Board of Canada came out with a study yesterday, and they were submitting that.
If I told you I didn't touch that, I don't see how I touched that.
We may not get out of this.
Chalk that up to human eyes don't work the way we think.
I meant the fact that for the young people, you know,
millennials
and Gen Zs or Zs, they're going to have to carry the burden going forward. 870-6400. Let me get a few fast ones in. Sean, we'll start with you here in Toronto. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Oakley Show. What do you say on the matter of the continued lockdowns here in Toronto?
Great day for Talk Radio, Johnny. Thanks for having my call.
You got it.
I think we both wear it. The provincial wear the not the vaccine problem, but they wear allowing the big box stores to carry all the clothing, electronics. You can buy anything you want. You know, they weren't limited to essentials. The provincial government has to wear that for sure. 100%.
Okay.
Secondly, the federal, and as far as federal, the federal government is totally responsible for the mess with the vaccines. It's absolutely diabolical what's going on. And Mr. Trudeau wears it 100%. And people are dying because we don't have the vaccine.
Well,
he wears it.
People are dying because of what's being done, not done.
Doug Ford, because the accusation had been made that he's taking too many of his cues from unelected health officials.
Vaccines.
Do you understand that, or do you think leadership means that you take it under advisement, but you make your own call and you live with it for better or worse?
Hey, it's like a supplier. You don't take your advice from the supplier. You listen to them what they have to say, but in the end, you have to run your business. And when he tells me that he's for the little guy,
but these guys are the suppliers. What are you talking about?
And he should be taking the advice from the medical people, but he also has to make some big choices, and he's not making them. He's excusing himself by, it's the medical, it's the medical. Last time I looked, the medical people are government workers, and I didn't vote them in.
You know what he might have done? Again, this is just speculative. In the case of Toronto and Peel, I don't want to say call their
have a hard time understanding
the
Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Under the provincial
your rights don't mean shit if you have to step on mine to get them. So, fuck you, Lord, I don't care what your high school teacher told you when they rubber stamped. I know this guy's about 5 to 10 years older than me. Already the demographic.
You call it, I would like to see things open.
I did the left.
They would close it down. So they would have to, because I'm saying he's in an untenable position now. He's not going to satisfy about half the people.
Let's see, if everybody else voted for the exact same person, he would still say in his head, I didn't vote for that person, so I don't have to listen.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. Great day for Talk Radio.
Thank you, Robbie.
You know, I'm laying every single death in long-term care from COVID-19 squarely at the feet of Justin Trudeau. He bungled everything.
When SARS started, he was still doing blackface and brownface. So I don't know if he's responsible for this or not. I'm just not sure.
Why? Why didn't they lock down the airports? They still got flights over. Then they sent our money.
And we still do.
Over to all kinds of third world countries. They should have invested that money in the elderly, in their care. If you got money to give away to other countries,
people testing negative and they test positive later.
They did nothing to protect these people whatsoever. Oh, yeah, we'll close the border. So they closed the land border. How many flights came in with people infected? I came back during the first lockdown from Mexico, and Bill Blair lied through his teeth that they had stuff set up at the airport for us to get clean, to clean our hands and all that stuff. There was nothing going on. They were all crammed in the international arrivals, all like cattle. These guys have screwed the pooch so hard on this one, it's not even funny. Every cap at his feet.
All right. Well, I got you. That was, some other aspect to this where the contagion comes in from foreign sources. What was I reading today? I think 13 flights from India in just the last couple of days have come in with infections, which has led me to wonder what it is about these pre-boarding, in another country, you need a negative test within 72 hours of leaving. Are people getting this test and then they come here and are shown to be infected?
72 hours.
I don't understand. What's the point of
48 hours probably of travel.
Of a negative test before you board the flight? If you're coming in and then you test positive,
3 days plus a day travel time. You guys didn't account for that.
And they don't identify the person.
One
they just
person gets on the fucking plane sick and you're all sick.
The individual. Because the individual who tested positive, I guess, upon arrival is or was seated in whatever the seat and row may be, and then you've got to find out, or they do trace from the manifest, the flight manifest, or the passenger list, and then contact you accordingly. But it's just left me wondering where it is.
They told us that with fucking Presto cards
before
too.
you got on the plane. That is another topic worthy of discussion. A little later in the program, 1 hour from now, coming up, we're going to find out from a business person exactly what's done his business and the extended lockdown that was announced earlier today,
on the fucking train.
at least for 2 more weeks. The modeling suggests it could be longer than that. And then we get to topics worthy of destruction at the bottom of the hour. 21 after, right now to the roads we go on a check and chopper traffic. Ari Rabinovich.
And John, South KPT is still busy, especially through Eglinton towards Don Mills because of those earlier crashes.
The Leslie and the Collectors, Victoria Park to Kennedy Collectors, and approaching Brock Road to east of Salem. Westbound 401, just typical slowdowns as well. Leslie to Bayview Express, Weston Express to Dixon, and then from west to Pure Ontario in the Express and Mavis Collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. Northbound Don Valley Parkway slow right now from north of Bayview Bloor to York Mills, so improving very slightly. Good news leaving downtown. First off, we have delays on the West Gardner, Jarvis to west of Strawn. Westbound QEW, that problem approaching Berlin now gone. I'm already seeing things move a lot better in this area. Slow though from the Ford plant towards Burloak, and then northbound on the 410 delays Steeles to north of Queen. Don't miss the new revelations in the shocking and still unsolved murders of Barry and Honey Sherman this week exclusively on thestar.com. With the forecast, here's Natasha Ramsahai.
All right, thanks very much. Flurries, they're still ongoing, and the cloud is still there as well, but we'll break it up a little bit overnight tonight down to -11. Still some flurries in the morning, but by the afternoon, grab the shades. The sun will be out with a high of -2, and Sunday is mainly sunny and -3. You could see a little bit of morning flurry action though right along the Lake Ontario shoreline. Otherwise, get ready for shoveling, and that starts Sunday night with snow continuing into Monday morning, and then by Monday afternoon, we're switching it to rain. So that's kind of a slushy mess. It's also windy. Here's the good news. It'll be mild at 3 degrees. Overnight tonight down to low of -11. It is currently -3, wind chill -7 at Pearson.
Coming up the bottom of the hour, breaking news. The Ontario government has extended the stay-at-home order in Toronto and Peel for an additional 2 weeks. York Region placed under red control, joining Durham, Halton, and Hamilton. And the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says doesn't know of a longer lockdown in North America. We'll explore straight ahead. This is 680 News.
If there's one vehicle made for winter in Canada, it's a Subaru. Whether it's rain, sleet, or snow, symmetrical all-wheel drive works full-time to get.
They're comparing us to the United States and Mexico. Think about that. It might be. Is it the longest? I guess it's got to be the longest in Canada, man. Fucking people.
Winter safely at your
969-8130 or visit us online at northwoodmortgage.com.
License 10349.
It took early humans thousands of years to start cooking their food. Today, we're not such a patient bunch. Thankfully, good food now has same-day delivery, so you can get delicious, ready-to-cook meals and grocery items like Good Food milk and yogurt without the wait. Good food.
What if I have no electricity and Justin has thrown all the milk down the drain because he is petulant?
Listening to the John Oakley Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
24 past, coming up, bottom of the hour.
Past what?
Is a Friday staple. Topics worthy of destruction. Peter Wildman, Tristan Hopper going to weigh in, and we'll just throw around some offbeat stories that wouldn't necessarily make it to, say, the front page of the word paper you were looking at. Which in most cases it's not anymore, it's online, but still, as things change. The same can certainly say that about Toronto and Peel when it comes to lockdowns. We now have an extension until at least the 9th of March, but the modeling also shows we're supposed to be in the peak of these variants of concern that could even see us with daily cases approximating 20,000. Really, seriously, Theresa Tam said that that's for the country. For Ontario, I would extrapolate.
See why I'm not willing to take risks with some weird frozen fish that I'm supposed to cook up that's supposedly was frozen all day. It doesn't look quite right out of off the bat.
Their cues and shutting everything down. Let's find out how somebody who's really in the maw, a business person, Steve Long, president of Long & McQuaid Musical Instruments, a fixture in Toronto for, Steve, how long has it been now? About 4 or 5 decades? Yeah, the company was started in 1956, so we've been chugging along ever since. Well, how are you chugging along these days? Well, the rest of the country's chugging along just fine. Ontario's not chugging along very well at all. As you probably know, our type of products, people really need to come in and see them and, talk to the people. And so we've been selling at about 65% of normal levels in Ontario, and we're doing better than normal in other provinces, every other province. Yeah, yours is a tactile business. I mean, if somebody wants to buy a guitar, you're going to feel the sustain, right? Oh, yeah, you have to check it out for sure. Right. It doesn't sound frustrating because our stores are never crowded. They're big stores with lots of stuff and not very many people. Not like some of the ones that are open. Well, you guys, you've employed, I'm told 1,300 musicians, contracts, around 1,000 music teachers. So, yeah, 2,000 actually, 2,000 employees. Wow. And so what's happening with them right now? Are they doing virtual lessons? How's that going? Well, the teachers are doing virtual lessons as much as possible, but that's only at about 60% of normal. Because, it doesn't work for little kids, right? Virtual lessons are fine for, an adult or, a teenager, but for a young child, it doesn't work. So it's definitely not as good. And then the rest of the people, we're working, but we're not doing very well. Right. Steve Long from Long and McQuaid. By the way, were you anticipating opening up again come Monday? And how did you break the news that the extended lockdown goes to March 9th anyway? Well, I've kind of given up on Ontario. It's the only up on Ontario, but you didn't leave either, bastard. And we were told it was for 2 weeks or whatever back in November. In the center of that spiral is Toronto, because it's a toilet and it all goes counterclockwise and delayed. It's a lot. So I think for some reason there's some people in Ontario that just want retail to go away, shut down permanently, and we can all shop at Amazon and Walmart from now on. Wow. Look, it's not unwarranted, your cynical viewpoint on that. It looks like it. I mean, what else are you to conclude? But is it the Premier that's let you down? I mean, we heard from Dan Kelly earlier, the head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, believing that somehow this is a province that's inimical to smaller business and doesn't have their best interests at heart. Do you see it's vested in the Premier, who's maybe too reliant on taking his cues from the health authorities? I really don't understand it because there isn't a lot of evidence, or there isn't any evidence that the type of retail that has been shut down has caused any problem. I mean, it's sort of like you take the whole economy and you take this little sliver and say we're gonna make a big point and we're gonna shut this sliver down and we can stand up on our soapbox and say, oh, we're doing everything we can to fight the virus, and really, the people are still going shopping. They're just going shopping at a smaller number of places, which seems to me counterproductive. If you look at everywhere else in North America, the virus, Ontario's not doing any differently than anywhere else with the cases in Canada, and yet we've shut down retail and nowhere else has. So I'm at the point where I'm really fed up. I think there's no thought to common sense. We're governing by social media because it's like let's not actually do something logical because then people are going to criticize it. So let's just do something that we can stand on our box and say we did something. The Prime Minister, I mean. When you say you're fed up, I mean, is there a breaking point that you might arrive at? What would that mean? Well, for us, no, there's not, because we've been in business a long time. We have other sources of income. We do a lot of online business. We do, we have other provinces to keep us afloat. But I really feel bad for the small business. Like I know, I mean, when we first started the business for years, like it was, every week, okay, are we going to be able to make payroll this week? And, you're struggling to get your business going. And, you're for the first number of years, you're always one little disaster away from going out of business, right? And for all the little, the small businesses that are just getting started, I mean, it's terrible for them because they don't have the resources behind them to carry them through this type of thing. And, sure, you talk about, costs of whatever. But what about, the mental health costs of somebody that worked for 5 years to build up a business and, renovated the whole thing and spent, his whole life on it, his whole efforts, and then the whole thing goes down the tubes because he's not allowed to be open. So yeah, it's more frustrating for me for other people than it is personal, actually.
What do you make of it when even the Mayor Tory and Eileen DeVilla, the medical officer of health, they say that you can't have a healthy business or a healthy economy unless there are healthy people. So they're predicating everything until we actually shut these numbers down or tamp them down significantly. Businesses, that's too risky a proposition to see any kind of even marginal opening. What do you make of that?
I think it doesn't make any sense because you have Walmart open. People are wandering around Walmart. Grocery stores are open. Pharmacies are open. That's not where the virus is spreading. Even in those situations. And if you look at small business, your typical small business store, whether it's a bike shop, a pet shop, or whatever. If you go to any of those stores, you go into the store. Usually there's a couple of staff. There's a couple of people. You do your business. You get out. You can keep a distance. I mean, one thing I'll say, out of our 2,000 employees, we have had them working together in the environment, and we have not had a single case spread from employee to employee. We've had people get it from their family, come to work, get tested. We test everybody in the building. Nobody's got it. That person goes home, gets better, comes back to work. Everything's fine. Like it's not.
Can you shut down the workplace while that happens?
Are spreading the virus at work. In fact, I think you're making it worse because guess what? When people aren't buying from us in store, they're going to go on Amazon and buy it online. And look at how many cases are coming at those big warehouses. Because if you ever actually walk into one of those warehouses,
nobody's got it. That person goes home, gets better, comes back to work. Everything's fine. Like it's not a case of where people are spreading the virus at work. In fact, I think you're making it worse because guess what? When people aren't buying from us in store, they're going to go on Amazon and buy it online. And look at how many cases are coming at those big warehouses. Because if you ever actually walk into one of those warehouses and see what goes on, you've got a lunchroom with 150 people sitting in a lunchroom. You've got people carpooling it to work. So a whole bunch of people coming together to work, giving each other the virus. You're basically taking people from a safe environment and moving them to an unsafe environment and patting yourself on the back saying, what a great job we're doing.
I would agree with you. I think that, they have to follow more strictly the evidence and where it leads them, as opposed to thinking that a one-size-fits-all, everybody shut down. Save for, as you say, the big box stores. That's really an irritant for the smaller business operators who can't compete on any level, especially when they've had both hands tied behind their backs. Steve, I wish you the best. I know you've been around a while, so maybe you'll endure. And hopefully, as some people are projecting, when we do get through this, who knows how many more months ahead, there's going to be a retail boom, and you can make up for a lot of the lost ground, best case scenario. Appreciate you weighing in this. Yeah. All right. Again, thanks so much for weighing in this afternoon and for your candor. All the best. Bye. Steve Long, president of Long & McQuaid Musical Instruments. Now you know. Topics worthy of destruction. Let's get to it in just a moment. Peter Wildman, Tristan Hopper, Oakley Show, Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
If you're accused of a criminal offense, including those that arise from a high-conflict divorce, you need a highly experienced criminal defense lawyer. I'm Joseph Newberger, a certified specialist in criminal law. I've dedicated my career to protecting your rights. If you're charged, you don't need to go through this difficult time alone. Newberger & Partners are here to guide you every step of the way. Contact us for a consultation at 416-364-3111 or go to nrlawyers.com. That's nrlawyers.com.
It took early thousands of years to...
It is shocking to me that the provincial government is basically abdicating its leadership and turning over the keys to the Premier's office to an unelected health official.
Tracy McFarland, who owns Fair Beauty Boutique in the Yonge and Lawrence area, says while she understands why the decision was made, it's frustrating, especially the short notice.
So now we, essentially have to call all of our customers that are booked from Monday onwards, and we'll have to reschedule that 2-week period of bookings. And hopefully, we can manage to get everyone in, and, it's a process for sure.
It's a different story north of the city. York Region will see the order lift next week as it moves to red. Mary DePete, who owns Misha No Clothing Boutique in Woodbridge, tells me she's excited about reopening, and she says she's not worried about people from Toronto and Peel making their way to her store.
I have thought about it, and I'm going to take extra precaution because we're only allowing 5 people plus our staff in the store at the same time. I know we're allowed 50% of occupancy in the store, but I'm going to be extra careful.
The CFIB is calling on the province to reverse course and keep its commitment to reopen small retailers immediately in Toronto, Peel, and North Bay. Phil Martino, 680 News.
So more Ontarians will soon be able to get a vaccine, hopefully next month. 680's Michelle Mackey joins us live. The latest from the task force. Michelle.
Yeah, James, in mid-March, the head of the province's vaccine rollout says Ontarians 80 and older will begin receiving their COVID-19 vaccines.
And we will be reaching out to them in the next week to 2 weeks to tell them when their opportunity is going to become available, where they can go to book their appointments, either online or through a phone line.
But retired General Rick Hillier says those booking systems are still under development, as is a customer service desk that will be open to calls from the general public.
And all that information will be coming out in this next 1 to 2 weeks, and we'll be going live during that same time frame and be able to provide the information to those 80-year-olds who I know are waiting to figure out where they can go and when to get their vaccine.
And when the time comes, he's also asking family members, community organizations, and church groups to help the province get this information out to these group of seniors. Reporting live, I'm Michelle Mackey.
This is 680 News. Celebrity power couple Kim Kardashian and Kanye West have formally filed for divorce. 680's Madison Fitzpatrick joins us live with the latest on the end of Kim Ye. Madison.
Yeah, so Jenna, well, it looks like it's official. Kim and Kanye's love story is slowly coming to an end with 6.5.
Because I know you are a wild man. What do we make of this guy? Is this something that, would be a pretty enticing nightclub act? I think eating a live bat. Did he make an impression on you?
No, he did not, John, because I don't think he ate the live bat because there's no evidence that he did. He said he ate the bat before they arrested him. But he's a performance artist. Those guys would do that in church if it got them attention. Oh, no, he's totally faking everybody out. And the Pfizer touches.
I heard him say he didn't eat the bat. I heard him say he didn't. I saw him say it on video, on TV.
He's limiting his prospects. You're right.
No, I think it's a complete fake. I think he's just a nut job looking for attention, and he should have eaten the bat as they arrested him.
All right, Peter Davichenko. Davichenko is Russian for Aussie, I believe. Tristan Hopper, did this guy, are you with Wildman on this one? Just all a ruse? It's a stagecraft, but nothing really to it?
Potentially, but I still hope it catches on. Because as you did mention, I'm in Vancouver Island, in the capital of Victoria, and I'm actually my house is almost within sight of the legislature. So that means when there isn't a pandemic on, I spend roughly 60% of my time stuck behind some dumb protest roadblock, whether that's for pipelines or free Tibet or whatever. So I would heartily support if these activists would just start eating wild animals in protest rather than blocking my route to my kids' daycare. I could even think of some animals they could target for consumption. We have a large number of seagulls that I'm sure would back their fight for social justice.
And Ontario has too many deer, so, get the deer right there to call and start gnawing on it.
Yeah, we will eat one deer every hour until our demands are met. Do that.
Right. Basically holding the figurative gun to all of the PETA people's heads. This is something that's interesting. You speak of the wilds. This is in your neck of the woods, kind of sort of on the left coast, the west coast. Up in Alaska, though, a woman goes to an outhouse and she's doing her business. And this is the winter. This happened like on a weekend. And she feels something nip her from the, underneath. And she turns around and takes a look. There's a black bear in there. The bear, I guess, figuring that the outhouse, the trapper was a place to hibernate, decides it bites her on the rear. And she had to be taken in for triage. Tristan, you're out there. Maybe you can tell me, when you go to an outhouse, I'm guessing you got indoor plumbing there in Victoria. But still, if you're camping or anything like that, do you always check before you sit down so that there's nothing lurking in down below?
I didn't. I thought that was something I had to worry about.
This one open this time. The next time I'm going to put one in
But I can say,
closed.
if I was ever caught hiding in an outhouse, either for sexual or research reasons, I would also claim to be a bear to escape scrutiny. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened.
Almost fixed. I think
The real bear.
Right. Wear a bear suit if you've got that kind of proclivity. If you're a little bit of a pervert, a bear suit will always come in handy. How about you, Wildman? When you're out there in the wilds, man, are you checking what's in the outhouse and what's down below?
No, I read the story and I feel for the bear, John. I really do, because it really, I mean, anybody who's Alaskan and goes camping in February, you don't mess with those people. Someone that can go camping in February in Alaska, you cut them a wide berth. Also, the outhouse, was it a two-holer? The article didn't say, because really, you should go with somebody. That's why they put two holes out there. It is for safety, John.
I had no idea. Maybe the nip in the butt was just a mating ritual. The bear was assuming. Who knows?
Fair enough. I feel for the bear on this one. I feel for the bear.
But let's say you're going to one of these developing world countries, and in Far East Asia, we've heard tell of stories where like rats come up through the plumbing, or a python on occasion. I mean, would you do your checking at that point, Tristan?
I guess so, yeah. When I brag about Canada to people from other countries, one of the first things I usually brought up was the lack of wild animals or various facilities used for urination. So this is really a mark against all of us here in North America, really.
No, it's a value proposition for people to come here. Our plumbing is safe. You won't be accosted from down below by a wild animal. And speaking of which, this is something when you talk about stuff that would herald significant accomplishments or certain, things that countries can boast on. I noticed where France is applying to UNESCO to have the baguette listed as a cultural treasure. The baguette, which they say, has got to be made from 4 basic ingredients: flour, water, a little bit of salt, and I can't remember what the 4th one is. But they say it's becoming a dying art because it's now mass-produced bread and the big stores and supermarkets as opposed to individual bakers. I was thinking here in Canada, if we wanted a similar UNESCO designation as a cultural treasure, Peter Wildman, what would you cite along those lines?
Well, it's funny. I had that very same thought, John, and I thought, there is a very famous a donut franchise in Canada. I don't want to say the name because, it does put some butter on Corus's bread. But, there was a time that there were donut shops all over Toronto and I'm sure Ontario that were run by mom and pops, and they actually had a cook out back that made the donuts, and I miss that because I think
now. You guys are paying like $3 for some stupid thing
in these past decade or so of being delivered frozen and being mass produced. So I can understand where France is going with this UNESCO thing. I think we ought to get in on that too.
Well, it leads to a lot of speculation if there's something that is of significance. I mean, I can think of 1 or 2 foodstuffs, but how about you, Tristan, at UNESCO? And this is where you appeal to them and try to get on their list so it, I guess, enhances the prestige of whatever it is you might have on offer. What would Canada's inclusion be?
True. First of all, I just want to defend the marketing genius of Tim Hortons. They basically discovered that when I'm looking for a donut, I don't really care about flavor or texture. I'm trying to just assault my bloodstream, usually for the crime of being up early. So they kind of figured that out, and they were absolutely right. Canadians do not care. They sort of hurt themselves with sugar. But I would pursue nothing for this designation. I've got a real problem with Europeans always trying to police food in this, like, we need a UNESCO designation. It's not champagne unless it comes from the Champagne region of France. It's not Stilton unless it comes from these 3 British counties. Is that Newcastle Brown? It's not from Newcastle, so it's not actually Newcastle Brown. I don't know. We have food here in Canada, but we don't have the agents like dispatched around the world. If you make your poutine with shredded cheese, we're not going to send you a cease and desist letter from the embassy or whatever. So I don't know why Europe has to do this. And to me, it's coming from a place of weakness. I mean, if you really were kicking ass,
we would. All these old people would.
Worry
The
about
stamps are
having
expensive now.
we would just know it's a good UN baguette. Like Alberta beef, we like it, so we eat it. We don't have to appeal to some international body to tell people they can only enjoy Alberta beef.
I just wonder if this is actually prompted by the people at the UN, so they can go on a graze across Europe on the arm.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great UN job. It's way better than investigating ethnic cleansing. Like we're going on a baguette tasting journey.
Right? Who drew the short straw on that one? Uyghurs? Yeah, I'm not even sure what flavor do they. Listen, I've got to come back because I got more topics worthy of destruction, including a significant date when it comes to the invention of the phonograph. We'll talk about records, dirty discs in just a moment. With our topics worthy of destruction panel, Peter Wildman.
Les autres méthodes d'intervention. Alors, avec cette question, je pense qu'on est sous le...
Matthews is simply picking goaltenders apart.
Guy Selassie, qui est une ancienne candidate à la mairie de Toronto et une défenseur de l'idée.
Sous la même page.
L'avocate plaidante Saron Gebrselassie, qui est une ancienne candidate à la mairie de Toronto et une défenseur de l'idée de définancer la police, au micro de ma collègue Marjorie April à l'émission Il n'y a pas deux matins pareils. On va poursuivre en chanson avec Sarah May. Voici Le cœur a ses raisons.
Disons sur le raté, j'ai les corps déguisés. J'aurais pu tout abandonner. Avec le repos, je reconnais les sourires déguisés. Pour un c'est l'air d'humanité. Pour sortir de l'ombre, il y a la vérité. Je serai dans ma bulle, voler ma bière comme diamant brut. Ma passion et ma raison, c'est le cœur qui guide mes pas. Le cœur a ses raisons, la raison ne connaît pas. Ma passion et ma raison, c'est le cœur qui guide mes pas. Le cœur a ses raisons.
Then we want to hear from you because you need Dr. Lou Nally. Call in to the Pinpoint Health Show Saturday mornings at 11 and get expert advice.
Delivered right to your home because some things are better left in town.
Upside un à un, donne-moi l'idée dans tes bras la danse, parce que les apparences, je fais pas dans l'arrogance, de ton manigance, si tu me connais, tu sais que c'est progressif, je te pense pas ensemble pour soi inclusif, je serai dans ma bulle, franchis la porte où tu recules, ma passion et ma raison, c'est l'heure qui vient me voir, le cœur a ses raisons, la raison ne connaît pas, ma passion et ma raison, c'est l'heure qui vient me voir, le cœur a ses raisons. La raison ne connaît pas, la raison ne la vie a pu m'appeler, je reste si je suis en paix, je reste si je suis en paix, la vie a pu m'appeler, je reste si je suis en paix.
Says the injunction to block more wooden shelters has not been granted. They're still waiting on a hearing date for that. We have reached out to but had no reply yet from Khalil Stevewright, the Toronto carpenter who's been building wooden shelters for the homeless. Reporting live, I'm Mark Douglas.
There are currently fewer than 33,000 active COVID-19 cases across the country, which is down 60% from a month ago. Here's 680's Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
The crisis isn't over, so neither is the support. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announcing both the recovery and caregiver benefits are being extended so that people can access them for an additional 12 weeks to a total of 38 weeks. EI eligibility also nearly doubling to 50 weeks, and the sickness benefit getting stretched as well, from the current 2 weeks to a new total of 4 weeks. No one should be going to work sick right now.
Meanwhile, new federal modeling shows even with current restrictions, the new variants will cause a third wave with a possibility of 20,000 cases a day by mid-March or early April. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, says we need to increase our efforts.
We need to keep the pressure on the virus, applying what works with even more diligence.
The warning comes as many provinces are relaxing restrictions. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Traffic and weather together next.
The question isn't, do you want a new bathroom? The question is, how old
Whose
is your
new
bathroom?
bathroom do you want? No, I got it wrong.
Back this. I still have them. No, they're worth thousands of dollars, and I'm not giving them back.
Right, you can't unload your compact discs, nobody cares. But vinyl is king again. Yeah, it's really taken a bump to the upside. How about you, Wildman? What was the first album? It was the best of the Frantics, wasn't it?
Gosh, yeah, blink to the head. Yeah, no, I think my first 45 that I bought was a novelty song. Go figure. It was called "I Love Onion" by Susan Christie. Yeah.
Wow, everybody remembers that one. What was it? Well, how did it go?
Onions, blah, blah, blah. Onions, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, I love onions.
Well, all right. So
later of the
Politique indépendante. Je me pose des questions parce que.
I'll be okay.
Oh, is that right? You see, I was thinking in my head, I was listening to that tune, and I'm going, yeah, that's the commercial for Turtles, as you say. So it was actually spawned, it riffed off. I got it. All right.
But I find it weird. The first 45 I buy when I'm like 12 or 11 years old is a novelty tune. I mean, the fix was it. My fate was determined. I just didn't know it.
Right. Well, that's inspired you on to greatness as a YouTube star, man with a guitar, funny man with a guitar. Hey, and speaking of firsts, this is kind of an interesting story. I'm curious. In Lincoln, in the UK, this shop had its alcohol license revoked after police seized illicit alcohol that contained, wait for it, 150,000 times more than the safe permitted level of industrial alcohol. And they were selling it as Krakow vodka. Do you remember the first drink that made you ill? That was so revolting. Krakow vodka. I mean, this one here, 150,000 times. It was tested scientifically in a laboratory. They should have known the label was peeling off through the glass. But how about you, Tristan? I mean, what was the first drink that really rattled you?
Oh, geez. Well, like every British Columbia needs Grower's cider. If we ever go to war with the rest of Canada and we have to catch spies from other provinces, I'm going to just put them in a room with Grower's cider. And if it doesn't bring back horrible memories of their teen years, I'll know they're not a British Columbia and then execute them.
That's a way to getting them to talk. How about you, Mr. Wildman? What was the drink? Was it creme de menthe shooters that you were doing at a bar one night after a show?
No, I think it was just boring old beer. I wasn't very complicated. I never understood port.
No problem.
And I once had some not Crown Royal, but there was something that was pretty wild that you only needed a couple of ounces of it, and I was always pretty cautious. I was always pretty cautious.
So to disappoint
you, John. I'm not.
All right, well, you're a teetotaler. There's no harm in that. So there was nothing that really messed you up, even at a high school party or something where you learn your limit because first you had to pass it to understand. It was like Jim Mack. Do you remember Jim Mackley's line about he thinks he's allergic to beer? I have 15 or 16, I throw up.
Jim was always good. Yeah, he still is. Yeah.
And speaking of drinks, I got to ask you about this one. Where a woman made a mistake. She texted her boss a bottle of champagne at a party she was at, but she told him moments before she wouldn't be able to make it into work because of the bad weather. Ever do that, Tristan, where you send message to all as opposed to just tailoring it to one person? Did you ever actually get tripped up that way?
I used to, but as a member of the card-carrying member of the press, this is something I've had to be very, very, very vigilant about. And I've just re-entered the dating scene. So at any 1 hour, I'm texting some senior politicians, sending some explicit text to some
Right. Certainly no pictures. No intimate pictures.
Together first, and then type in the recipient.
Tony
Clement would understand it.
Right. Yeah, that was all a mistake. Tony, this is the good-natured rip. How about you, Mr. Wildman? Last question. I mean, ever do that accidentally, send message to all or inadvertently to somebody who shouldn't have got it?
I don't do the texting thing much, but my emails periodically have escaped. I remember in particular one day I sent a TV proposal to CTV, something for the Comedy Network, and they replied, "Thank you very much. We'll give this a read." And I immediately sent an email to a writing partner, a producer. I thought, "Oh, let's see if they buy that crap." And the series didn't get picked up, John, and I didn't get the job. So
you were your own worst critic.
Well, yes, but then as we all know, Comedy Network, they found some other crap to put on instead. There you go, Lily.
All right, I love a guy who shows up to the show with sound effects, his own sound effects. Great work, both. It's always a pleasure. It's a great way to usher in the weekend, especially, in these depressing times. Edgar Wildman, funny man with a guitar and future YouTube star. Tristan Hopper, must-read columnist and reporter with the National Post. Guys, stay well till we do it again. All the best, all right?
You heard it, John. You heard it, Tristan.
You got it. There you go. Yeah.
That's what it says.
I need it. I don't know about you, but boy, oh boy, it's just really more depression coming down the pipe with the extended lockdown and the business people who are being harmed. None more so than my friend Tom, who weighs in every day at this time. Got a clothing store that is without parallel. Great stuff that he has, apparel, men's apparel, and at deep discounts too. And it's all there in Kensington Market. He's slated to go protocols, practicing everything to a T. And now, Tom, we hear word you're going to be
what just happened?
Discontinued lockdown.
Why is it on Friday?
Contre plusieurs équipes cette saison, excellente équipe offensive.
21 cents. Canopy growth up 5.5% to $48.77. All right, meantime, this is a big story. Looks like Canada could be the next country to go after Facebook to pay for news. Facebook recently blocked all Australian news content on its service over proposed legislation in Australia that would require Google to pay fees to Australian publishers for news links. Canada's Heritage Minister is crafting similar legislation, which will be unveiled in the coming months, and condemned Facebook's actions, saying it would not deter Ottawa from trying to get Google to pay for news content here in Canada. On the markets today, we had a winner on Bay Street with the TSX adding 110 points, closing out at 18,384. One of the big gainers was Magna International, the auto parts maker. Ended better than expected earnings, so stock was up almost 10%, above $105. On Wall Street, a sideways performance. The Dow was up just a point. The S&P fell 7. The NASDAQ was higher by 9 points. And Bitcoin moving higher, price right now at 55,500 US. And the Canadian dollar is at a 4-week high, 79.23 cents US. The top stories at 5 o'clock, just seconds away here on 680 News.
COVID continues to be a threat. Bergmanis Prayer supports frontline initiatives and reminds you to be safe. If you've been injured due to slip and falls, careless drivers, or if your insurance company has failed to honor its obligations to you, Bergmanis Prayer offers skilled and compassionate legal services and free, no-obligation consultations by phone or video 24/7. You are not alone. Bergmanis Prayer personal injury lawyers. You focus on getting better, we'll do the rest. Visit us at bplawyers.ca.
If there's one vehicle made for winter in Canada, it's a Subaru. Rain, sleet, or snow, symmetrical all-wheel drive works to give you all the traction you need to be safe on the road. And with safety protocols in place, shopping for a Subaru at Subaru of Maple is as safe as driving one. Book an appointment and bring on winter safely at SubaruofMaple.com. Right now, get rates from 0.5% or cash savings up to $3,000 on remaining 2020 Subarus. Subaru of Maple in the Maple Auto Mall, part of our Ferry Automotive.
In downtown Toronto, it's -2 degrees, feels a little more like -6 when you factor in the wind. The News Watch never stops. 680 News at CFTR AM Toronto. It's 5 o'clock.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News. Good afternoon. It's Friday, February 19th.
Here's what's making news right now.
Stay at home for another 2 weeks. Status quo for Toronto and Peel region, but Monday will bring a red zone reopening in York region.
Ontarians 80 years and older are next in line for vaccines. The province's vaccine rollout task force says this age group will be contacted about appointments in the coming weeks.
Hollywood power couple Kim Ye is no more. Kim Kardashian West has officially filed for divorce after 6.5 years of marriage.
Ross Atkins checks in from Blue Jays spring training. Raptors get the T-Wolves tonight. Leafs in Montreal tomorrow. Sports at 15.
Triple-digit Friday winner on Bay Street, plus sales of Gorilla Glue skyrocketing after an unfortunate incident in the States. Business at 26.
680 News Time, 501.
Traffic and weather together on the one, brought to you by TSC Airborne Shopper 680, Jordan Kerr.
A bit of good news, eastbound on the QEW, that crash at Burloak has been cleared away, but it's still really heavy from east to Guelph line, then a delay approaching the Ford plant as you head up towards the Ford drive ramp. On the eastbound 403, looks like a new issue approaching the 407. It's backed up from Dundas towards the 407 as you approach the bend. And on the westbound 403, on the ramp to the QEW, we have a crash from the right lane. So it's slow on the ramp on the westbound 403 heading to the QEW. Westbound Gardner, slow from Jarvis to west of Strawn. And West QE is slow approaching Trafalgar to Dorval, then approaching Bronte to west of Guelph line. From the 680 Traffic Center, here's Zach Steve.
We have north DVP delays from north of Bayview Bloor up towards York Mills. Eastbound 401 slow in a number of spots through Mississauga Road, 427 to the 400 Expressing collectors. Allen to Young Express, Bayview to Leslie collectors. Then from Victoria Park to Kennedy and the collectors approaching Brock Road to Brock Street and Stevenson out towards Harmony. Westbound 401 delays approaching Harmony to Simcoe. Big break slow again west of the 400 Express to Dixon and west of Huron-Ontario Express. Mavis collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. Flaunting long, lush lashes just got easier. They're real. Magnet extreme lengthening and lifting mascara. From Benefit Cosmetics launches today at TSC. Shop now at tsc.ca. With the forecast, here's Natasha Ranzai.
All right, we do have some light snow. Kind of looks like a snow globe because that wind is only around 10 kilometers per hour, so really light. But it is coming in the lake effect snow off of Lake Huron. So watch Caledon, Bolton, areas to the north could see a centimeter or two. We have a winter weather travel advisory for Barrie back to Collingwood with that lake effect snow. For Toronto, it'll be flurries, a light dusting into the morning. -11 is your wake-up temperature, and then the afternoon we'll get into some sun and -2. And it's a mainly sunny Sunday with a high of -3. Tonight down to a low of -11 degrees. Right now it's -3, wind chill -7 at Pearson.
680 News Time, 503.
Status quo, the stay-at-home orders in Toronto and Peel region will remain in place until at least March 8th, while a partial reopening will begin next week in York.
680's Alex Bloomfield begins our coverage.
We announced that the stay-at-home orders in the hardest hit regions of the province will be extended for an additional 2 weeks.
And with that, no change to pandemic restrictions in Toronto, Peel, and North Bay, Parry Sound. Local medical officers expressing concern over the growth of new variants in those regions. But in York, the stay-at-home order will be lifted Monday, and red zone rules take effect. This will allow indoor shopping up to 50% capacity, a 10-person cap on indoor dining, Even indoor gatherings 5 and under are legal, though Health Minister Christine Elliott says residents should still stay at home as much as possible.
This isn't a reopening, everything's back to normal. Not at all. Please stay in your own region.
The province reporting 1,150 new cases of COVID-19 today, raising the 7-day average slightly, though hospitalizations fell below 700 for the first time since early December. I'm Alex Bloomfield.
So the head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says it is shocking to him the province has opted to extend the stay-at-home order in Toronto and Peel. 6 Cities Phil Martino tells us he's calling on the Ontario government to reverse course.
6 or 8.
James Dan Kelly, president of the CFIB, says COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations are dropping. So why the extension of the lockdown in Toronto and Peel? He stresses this is devastating for small businesses.
As of March 9th, when businesses are expected to reopen, retailers, gyms, hair salons will have been closed for 106 consecutive days in Toronto and Peel, and for indoor restaurants, they will have been closed for 150 days. You know, how on earth is a business expected to survive?
Tracy McFarland, who owns Fair Beauty Boutique in the Yonge and Lawrence area, says she understands the decision was made for safety reasons, but it's upsetting, especially the short notice businesses have been given.
But, you know, it is really frustrating because we don't find out until a couple days before whether, you know, we're able to open or not, and it seems to be the pattern for the last 3 months. So it's frustrating.
North of the city, York Region will see the order lift next week as it moves to red. Mary DePete, who owns Mijano Clothing Boutique in Woodbridge, tells me she's excited about reopening, and she says she's not worried about people from Toronto and Peel heading to her store.
I know we're about 50% of occupancy in the store, but I'm going to be extra careful. I'm going to have 5 people steam everything after it's tied on, cleanse the tables, the change rooms, the chairs. So I'm not worried, but I am going to work extra hard to keep it as clean and safe as possible for everyone.
And if you were hoping to hit Markville Mall in Markham, Cadillac Fairview has released a statement that reads in part, assuming we can meet all safety guidelines and precautions, we are aiming to reopen the shopping center in accordance with provincial restrictions on February 22nd. Phil Martino, 680 News. We're hearing more about which age group will next be able to get in line for a COVID-19 vaccine if they want one. 680's Michelle Mackey joins us live with the latest from the head of the province's vaccine rollout task force. Michelle.
Legina, the province is adding another group to phase 1 of the vaccine rollout, Ontarians 80 and older. Despite smaller than expected deliveries, the head of the vaccine task force says the target date is mid-March.
And we will be reaching out to them in the next week to 2 weeks to tell them when their opportunity is going to become available, where they can go to book their appointments, either online or through a phone line, and where they can get their information. We'll be sending them a card out to let them know what to do.
But retired General Rick Hillier says they won't be able to vaccinate the entirety of this group in phase 1.
There are more than 600,000 80-year-old and plus in Ontario. We've probably been able to vaccinate 10 to 12% of them because obviously many of them are in the long-term care facilities that we've already brought the vaccination program to.
That leaves more than 500,000 yet to be inoculated. Reporting live, I'm Michelle Mackey.
This portion of the news brought to you by Prudent Financial. We heard rumblings of the end of the Kim-Kanye romance weeks ago. Now today it's been made official. 680's Madison Fitzpatrick joins us live with that.
People, one of whom is Gary Wright, who, by the way, tomorrow will be noting that it's been 34 years to the date tomorrow where he picked up a device that shattered and changed his life. Gary Wright is joining us from Folsom, California to relive that incident. Gary, it's good to have you here in Toronto on the Oprah Show. Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks, John. I really appreciate it. I think you guys are a bit colder than we are.
One of whom is Gary Wright, who, by the way, tomorrow will be noting that it's been 34 years to the date tomorrow where he picked up a device that shattered and changed his life. Gary Wright is joining us from Folsom, California to relive that incident. Gary, it's good to have you here in Toronto on the Oprah Show. Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks, John. I really appreciate it. I think you guys are a bit colder than we are.
Well, actually, we're warmer than Texas, so I guess everything's relative, right?
Yeah, anything related to Texas at this point is a good thing, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's warmer with that Mars rover up there on the red planet. Let me ask you, I mean, tomorrow is the 34th year anniversary where you actually picked up one of the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski's bombs. I mean, do you still relive that day?
Yeah, actually, I celebrated, honestly. A couple of years ago, went out and created a custom cocktail for myself and sit down and have a drink. It was obviously a big day, big implications. Lucky to be here, so kind of celebrate the fact I'm still here and able to cause trouble for people, or at least joke around and have a little sarcasm here and there.
Well, there you go. You're a survivor. In many different ways. Before I get to that, though, is there any chance? I know you probably had to do this countless times, but just walk us through what it was that sort of led to all of this and how you came to be a victim, one of the several of the Unabomber.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was working in the high-tech industry and started a company as a really young guy in my early 20s. Had a company with about 31 employees, 4 locations. And that day, all those years ago, was just like any other day. Lots of work going on. A lot of mainframe type computing work was still in effect then for clients. And I was out working on a particular client's computer early in the morning around 6:30. And had been driving around, coming home from that service call. And when I pulled into the back of our parking lot, I pulled in to park the car, and I noticed this thing that looked like 2x4s with nails sticking out of it, basically. And if I described it, it would be like about a 13-inch piece of wood on the bottom of a 2x4, and on top of that, about a 9-inch piece of wood. So a little, 4x4 square with 4 nails sticking out of it. So I pulled in, and I thought, well, I don't want anybody to run over it or step on it and get injured. So I got out of my car, walked between the 2 cars, and approached this piece of wood. And I did hesitate for a second, and it was only because I had built a lot of things as a young kid, and these nails were just astonishingly bright and shiny, like chrome. And I'd never seen nails like them, and it kind of struck me that they were that shiny. Hesitated for a second. The top, luckily I put my fingers on the end to lift it up, and when I lifted up, there was just a massive sense of pressure and a sound that I equate to like a fighter jet going over, just a scream. And I was instantly almost deafened, but my immediate thought was, well, I got shot. I was knocked about 22 feet back into the parking lot. I landed on my feet and was for sure going into shock at that point, but was jumping up and down like I was on a pogo stick. And could look down and see where, part of my clothes were gone. In those days, we still wore ties and dress shirts, so I was dressed up, but I could see where there was, some blood starting to come through my shirt and things like that. And I just thought at that point, this could be it. This could be over. So yeah, very, very intense moment, if you will. Lots of things came after that. My family came running out of the building to see what had happened. It obviously was a huge explosion sound, but they came out, and I could kind of read their lips and look into their face and read what they were trying to say. And, you see their faces and know something's pretty bad, but they got me into the building inside, laid me down. The ambulance, the police, they all came, took me to the hospital, and that kind of started the journey. Long journey, I will call it, to recovery. I had over a dozen surgeries, about 200 pieces of shrapnel removed that night. Surgery about 2 weeks after the event, where they had to go in and sew nerves together and do tendon grafting and things like that. But all in all, the physical stuff, you get through that, you're going to heal however your DNA and chemistry and however far you want to push it, right? But the emotional side of it, the mental side of it, that's a different animal that took a little bit longer to get through.
Gary Wright is with us. A harrowing ordeal, being one of the victims of the Unabomber. This attack on this date, well, tomorrow actually is the 34th anniversary, back in 1987. Now, because of the number of people that he had injured, killed 3, any idea why this bomb ended up outside of your small shop in California?
I was actually in Utah. I'm in California now. And it's funny, there was a bomb placed right in Sacramento near where I am now too. The gentleman right before me, Hugh Scrutton, he picked up a bomb there, and he was one of the people that was killed. But in Salt Lake, the way that it's come back through all these years of investigation is that because my company was called CAMS, the acronym on the building, but underneath that is spelled out what it really was Computer and Accounting Maintenance Service. And apparently Ted Kaczynski, being anti-technology, picked the company and targeted it for that reason. And at that time, there weren't that many high-tech companies or computer-oriented companies in Salt Lake City. I think it was about 1 of 3 at that point. And he was able to, associate the name with whatever his vendetta was against technology at that point.
Were you in any way responsible for that, the picture, the composite drawing, I guess it was widely disseminated, of the guy with the hoodie and the sunglasses? Was that around your time?
Yeah, it's actually was my accounting assistant secretary was the person who did that composite drawing. So she had been in her office, which was in the rear of the building where I pulled up in the parking lot. And there's a set of windows back there, and she saw somebody walk by the window and stoop down briefly, and she thought, what's this person doing? So she looked out between the level of blinds that we had then, and she was about maybe 3 to 4 feet away from looking at Ted Kaczynski right in the face. So she got busy subsequently after that. We were just quite a busy little shop, and so we didn't have time to really understand what was there other than he put something on the ground. And so I look back on her recollection and compare it to the photos of Ted when he was in college and things like that. And I mean, it's remarkable that she caught that much in such a brief moment.
Now, Gary, he wasn't arrested until 9 years later, roughly. In the interim, I mean, you're the victim of a bombing. He's obviously placed it there deliberately. What was your life like in the interim?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, in the physical piece, I talk about that. There's just a lot to that. The healing process is really, really long. So you have that, but you also have, is he coming back? Just before I went in for my second surgery, I received a letter that he had drafted to an attorney in Salt Lake, indicating that he, being Ted, had spoken to someone in a bar, and they were commiserating on this guy's divorce or this woman's divorce. And he said, look, if you don't knock off and step away and be a better person, I'll come back and give you the same treatment I gave this guy from CAMS, because I'll be back next summer. So there was, some angst there, a lot of worry. And then financial, most people don't know, but that it wasn't covered by insurance, none of the injuries. So that's because it was a terror event, and things have changed a little bit in the United States since then, where after 9/11, if the government deems an event a terrorist attack, then they will pay for it, but the minimums are really high. I mean, it's got to be in excess of $5 million. And to put that into perspective, the Boston bombings were not considered a terrorist event during the Boston Marathon. So I was left on my own to take care of medical insurance and all of those kinds of things as well. So that put a bit of pressure on, and, everybody experiences it differently. So I, obviously had my myopic view of what it felt like and what I was going through, and perhaps I was more focused on my finger moving a millionth of an inch more on any given day. But, my family, friends, and others, they were traumatized in their own way, and they had to find a way to deal with it. So, sometimes I tell people don't see these events in exactly the same way, even if they're standing in the same room. Everybody has their perspective. So it's a lot of challenges when one of these things happens.
Well, it's certainly a unique experience in your regard, surviving the Unabomber's attack back in 1987. So when they actually did apprehend him, and this was done because I guess his brother and his wife recognized the manifesto and some of the strange wording in there, the 35,000-word manifesto that was published in the Washington Post and the New York Times in 1995, which tipped the FBI, and they went and they arrested him in Montana. Must have been a great relief to you, but it was also a turning point in terms of your life and a friendship you developed with Ted Kaczynski's brother, David. Tell us how that happened.
Yeah, the friendship with David was really pretty interesting. I had only ever seen he and his mother on television, and it kind of struck me that every time they addressed everyone, the first thing they would do is apologize to victims or survivors. And I felt like, they seem like really, really good people. I could at least empathize and say I didn't want to sit in their shoes. That had to be terrible, going through everything they did to try and to turn him in. And there was just a real odd thing about my case in that David had reached out to apologize by writing to everyone that he could find an address for, and they couldn't find an address for me. His wife, Linda, had a childhood friend who was a private detective, and she finally found an address. She mailed me a card and asked if I'd be interested in talking to David at some point. And I said, sure, no problem. Just have him give me a call at his convenience. I chatted with her for a few minutes, and I think she felt comfortable enough to pass that message on. And so it was November after Ted had been arrested, and David had called my house, and he laughs about it a little bit now because my answering machine at that time, when we had those, said, "You've reached the right house at the wrong time." And he what are you going to say to that? And but he called back about a week later. It was close to Thanksgiving time, and he expressed, on behalf of his family, the apology. And I just told him that, look, David, you don't have to carry this one. I mean, everybody has someone in their family they want to apologize for, and it may not be to the same extent. And I'm pretty sure my family wants to apologize for me about a lot of things. But I think the thing that probably, it took him a while to form a friendship, if that makes sense. But I think the thing that made him the most comfortable is I just said, look, sometimes you need to talk to people that are not so close, like a family member or friend. And if you ever need to chat, just give me a call 24/7. It doesn't matter. And I think that he initially says that it took him back a bit because he wasn't sure if that would really last or if it was just a one-time thing. And so we didn't chat very frequently in the beginning, but over time, and as the case kept moving forward and went from a criminal case to a capital case due to the changes in the laws after the Oklahoma City bombing, there was some things that we could chat about that were pretty difficult on his end as well. So through quite a few years and time and lots of windshield time, if you will, going to do speaking events and things like that, we've become really pretty close friends. We shared a lot of things together that I guess you would say even brothers would share together. So it's events like that where you realize that perpetrators' families and sometimes survivors' families, sometimes they're not all that different. They're both caught in the same web and the same trap.
Ted Kaczynski got 8 life sentences, but he was spared the death penalty. Nonetheless, it altered your life, and in many cases, for the better, too, from what I understand. It's a fascinating story. Yours is a unique lived experience, and Gary, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing it with us. And tomorrow, 34 years, man, the passage of time, but you're still with us, so good on you. Somebody's looking out for you. Appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you, John. Really appreciate your time as well. Have a great day.
And you. Gary Wright, again, survived Unabomber attack back in 1987. All right, well, there's a fascinating story. Closer to home, everybody's got to endure something else, crosses to bear, including small business with the extension of the lockdown in Toronto and Peel, but not York. And so who's got it right, who's got it wrong? It's a topic worthy of discussion. We'll get to those in a moment. Mike Van Solen, Kim Wright weighing in on the Oka Show. 21 past, right now to the roads we go, and a check of chopper traffic. Ari Rabinovich.
These QEW problems at Burl Oka now.
And in so many countries around the region, people played this song by the beloved Lebanese singer Fayrouz, Snow, Snow. Ruth Sherlock.
Daniel Estrin, NPR News.
Going out there, I know a lot of the side roads still haven't been plowed yet, so slick conditions. Flurries continue through this evening and taper off overnight, although they may return in the morning for especially the west end. We'll wake up to cloudy skies and -11, and then the sun will come out for a little bit in the afternoon at -2. We do have a sunny Sunday, just watching along the Lake Ontario shoreline in the morning for some lake effect snow. Otherwise, it'll be mainly sunny and -3. And then get ready for the next big system. That's going to be snow starting Sunday night, continuing into Monday morning, then switching over to rain through the afternoon. So imagine that slushy mess. It's also going to be windy on Monday, but milder at 3 degrees. Tonight, down to a low of -11 degrees. It is currently -3, wind chill -6 at Pearson.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, the Ford government extending the stay-at-home order in Toronto and Peel for another 2 weeks. Until at least March 8th, the York region will be placed under red control. That will start next week. We're looking into that. We have some reaction from the small business community. And it's the end of the line for Kim and Kanye. This is 680 News.
Does inline fiberglass do window replacements? Of course we do. Hi, I'm Tom Rokicki of Inline Fiberglass. A lot of people ask me whether or not Inline does window replacements. We have been replacing vinyl, wood, and aluminum windows for over 30 years. No job is too big or too small. So let us beautify your home and improve your home energy efficiency. If your windows are leaky, call Tom Rokicki. For more information, visit us at our Factory Direct showroom or at inlinefiberglass.com.
680 News is #1 for news in Toronto.
From the scene.
680's Mark Douglas is at Cotswell and Gerard this afternoon. The house was so badly gutted by this early morning fire. You can see roosters and birds out the back from Queen's Park.
We are waiting for the latest from the premier.
Always live.
Of course, you're going to hear it live on 680 News. I'm Richard Southern.
And always working for you 24/7.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News. Well, it's been a year since Prince Harry and his wife Meghan stepped away as full-time working royals. Now Buckingham Palace confirming today they won't be going back. Harry's appointment as Captain General of the Marines and his titles with other military groups will revert to his grandmother, the Queen. This royal historian says difficulties are bound to arise when one of the family wants to go their own way.
It's always difficult to align that with that public role. And I think the Queen took the view that it was not going to be possible to deliver what the Duke and Duchess of Sussex wanted as the model for how that would work.
The couple spokesperson says they've offered their continued support to the organizations they have represented. Royal Richie's next, 680 News Time, 525.
Mix and Match at Sleep Country is back, where we'll match you to the right mix of products, no matter your sleep style. So whether you're a toasty sleeper, frosty snoozer, a deep dreamer, or a mix of everything in between, our sleep experts have seen it all and will help you find the sleep essentials you need. And if you miss Boxing Week, get amazing prices right now on the best brands like a Steel Eurotop Queen Mattress Hot Buy for only $469. Only Sleep Country. Sleep well, stay well. Sleep Country.
Subway restaurants are pleased to announce our brand new valet service. No, but Subway's new curbside pickup is the next best thing. Right now, buy 2 footlongs and get 1 free when you order through the Subway app. Subway, eat fresh. Freshly made per order. Free sub of equal or lesser price. Extras additional. Participating shops. No additional discounts.
680 News Time, 526 now, 680 Business Report. Richie.
Good evening. Be nice to your home because chances are it's the big breadwinner in the family these days. Yes, the Bank of Montreal points out that your house probably makes more money than you do. With house prices on a tear at record highs here in the GTA, BMO senior economist pointing out in a note to clients this week that there's a good chance your home is earning more money per year than you are. I mean, for example, in the GTA, the average house price, $941,000. It's up just over $100,000 in the past 12 months. So it's made $100,000 in a year. The average household income in Toronto is just over $78,000. It's even more pronounced in Hamilton, where the average house price is up $154,000 over the past year to $786,000. That's double the $75,000 household income in that area. Wow. All right, meantime, sales of Gorilla Glue have skyrocketed, and I bet you know why. Yeah, it's got to do with the Gorilla Glue girl saga. That, of course, being the U.S. woman who used the adhesive on her hair with disastrous results. Amazon search volumes for Gorilla Glue jumped by a whopping 4,300% last month, and Google searches for the glue company also jumped 50-fold in February from a month earlier. Well, no sticky situations on the Toronto market. The TSX today was up 110 points, closing at 18,384. Cannabis stocks were strong. Canopy Growth was up 5.5%. Strong earnings from auto parts maker Magna International took that stock up almost 10% at $105.12 the share. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 1 point. The S&P down 7. The NASDAQ was up 9. Pretty flat Friday performance there. Bitcoin continues to take flight, up to 55,400 U.S. dollars. Canadian dollar at a 4-week high, 79.21 cents U.S. This is 680 News.
Your employment rights with Lior Samfiru from employmentlawyer.ca.
If you've lost your job during COVID-19, you may be entitled to significantly more compensation than you realize. Before the pandemic, 9 out of 10 employees were offered inadequate severance packages by their employer. Now, severance offers are more deficient than ever at a time when Canadians are in desperate need of support. Before you accept any severance offer, find out what you are truly owed. Otherwise, you could be leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. Don't settle for what your employer wants to pay you. Get what the law says you should receive. Contact me at employmentlawyer.ca and discover why my employment law firm is the most positively reviewed firm in Canada.
Contact employment lawyer Lior Samfiru today. Get the advice you need and the compensation you deserve. Visit employmentlawyer.ca. That's employmentlawyer.ca.
So tonight, cloudy with flurries, -7 overnight, partly cloudy, -11. Tomorrow morning, cloudy with flurries, -8, but it will feel like -16. Tomorrow afternoon, partly cloudy, and a high of -2. It's 5:30.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
Good afternoon. This is Friday, February 19th. I'm Sljana Tominzik.
And I'm James Monroe. Here's what you need to know.
2 more weeks of stay-at-home for Toronto and Peel region, but York is returning to the red zone on Monday, allowing non-essential retailers to open their doors with strict limits.
The province's decision to extend the stay-at-home order in Toronto and Peel isn't sitting well with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Its president says it's irresponsible. The province is announcing the next step in the vaccine rollout.
We want to be able to start vaccinating those 80 years of age and older.
The target date? Mid-March.
The love story of 2 of Hollywood's biggest stars is coming to a close as Kim Kardashian West has filed for divorce.
Charlie Montoyo pretty happy with what he's seen from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in spring training. Raptors chasing a 3rd straight win tonight. Sports at 45.
Uber stock takes a hit after a big court ruling out of the UK. The TSX in drive up more than 100 points, and the Looney takes flight. Business at 56.
680 News Time, 5:31.
Traffic and weather together on the ones, brought to you by Sportsnet and Chopper 680. Here's Jordan Kerr.
I'm flying around Dundas and Bloor for an update on this closure. Dundas is still closed south of Bloor, north of Roncesvalles, all because of an ongoing broken water main repair. Looks like they're close to being done. Of course, the road's still closed off, so hopefully they can get this open by the end of the weekend, maybe earlier, but unfortunately we don't have an actual time limit. Again, Dundas is still closed south of Bloor for this ongoing repairs after a broken water main earlier this week. How about the 401 East? 401 is slow through Mississauga Road from the 427 to the 400 ramps. Delays east of Victoria Park to Kennedy and the Collectors. The delays through Durham really heavy approaching Salem all the way through to east of Harmony. So slow drive through Whitby and Oshawa right now. From the 680 Traffic Center, here's Zach Bodenstein.
Westbound Gardner delays approaching Jarvis to west of Strawn. Then on the west QBW, things are improving. Still busy though through Dorval and then from 3rd all the way to west of Guelph Line. Westbound 403 ramp to the QBW. Collision in the right lane. It's slow on this ramp. So again, that's the west 403 to the QBW. Live stream your team with NHL Live. Score your full season pass now for $179.99 because you want hockey. Visit NHLLive.com. With the forecast now, here's Natasha Ramsahai.
Yeah, some lake effect snow, so still happening across the city of Toronto. Give it a couple of hours. This is going to taper off this evening. Watch for some winter weather travel advisors for Barrie to Collingwood, up to 10 centimeters there by morning. We are still going to be into flurries, especially through the west end in the morning as we wake up to -11, but we will get some sunny breaks through the afternoon and a high of -2 on the way. Tonight down to a low of -11, slick roads at times because of these flurries. It is currently -3 degrees at Pearson.
This is 680 News.
The Ford government has announced an extension of the stay-at-home order for Toronto and Peel regions, while York region will be moving to the color-coded framework red zone on Monday. We're gathering heated reaction from the small business community.
Here's 680's Alex Bloomfield.
Premier Ford pinning the decision to keep a stay-at-home.
They're on the ground. It's my responsibility to support them.
March 9th, now the earliest restrictions could be eased in the shutdown areas, but in the York region, red zone rules return Monday. Most businesses able to reopen at 50% capacity. The growth of variants of concern has many questioning any kind of reopening, saying it will lead to a massive third wave. Health Minister Christine Elliott says things like the emergency brake and expanded rapid testing should be able to prevent that.
We have a lot of safeguards in place to prevent that exponential growth from happening.
Opposition leader Andrea Horvath blasting the York reopening, writing, quote, "The virus doesn't know what side of Steeles Avenue it's on. The province's case count holding relatively steady at 1,150. Hospitalizations and test positivity still trending in the right direction." I'm Alex Bloomfield.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business is responding to the extension to the stay-at-home order in the COVID hotspots. The organization claiming many businesses simply won't survive this time. 6 City's Phil Martino joins us live with the latest. Phil.
So, Jana, Dan Kelly, president of the CFIB, says the province's call to keep Toronto, Peel, and North Bay in lockdown is shocking.
It is crazy to me that as COVID numbers continue to drop and hospitalizations continue to fall, that the Premier would give full power to local health officials to keep Toronto and Peel in full lockdown for weeks and weeks more.
Tracy McFarland, who owns Fair Beauty Boutique in the Yonge and Lawrence area, says as a local business owner, she's frustrated.
But I also understand the predicament that we're in. First and foremost is the safety of all of us individuals in the city. But, it is really frustrating because we don't find out until a couple days before whether, we're able to open or not.
Meantime, north of the city, York region will see the order lift next week as it moves to red. Mary DePede, who owns Michonneau Clothing Boutique in Woodbridge, tells me she's very grateful and excited about finally reopening after being closed for so long.
I can't wait to get back to it. And we just finished Reynolds. We're just wrapping it up, so I'm extra excited. And again, we're going to take precautions and be extremely safe, but we are so excited to be back at work, me and my staff.
The CFIB says as of March 8th, retailers, gyms, and hair salons will have been closed to in-store customers for 105 consecutive days in Toronto and Peel. Indoor dining in Toronto will not have been allowed since October 10th of last year. Phil Martino, 680 News.
Meanwhile, the province says by next month, octogenarians may soon have access to vaccines. 6 Cities Michelle Mackey is working on that and joins us live. Michelle.
Stickers.
James, the head of the province's vaccine rollout, says his team is preparing for the next step.
By the middle of March,
$2
we want
for
to
2
be able to
inch,
start
$3 for 3
vaccinating those 80
inch,
years
$4
old,
for 4 inch,
of age
whatever size
and
you
older.
want.
Retired General Rick Hillier says the province will be contacting this age group within the next 1 to 2 weeks with information on how they can book their appointments. But he's also asking for your help.
If the logo is a black
somebody in your family or in your community or in
exist.
your group, in your church who's 80 years old or older, wrap yourself around them and help look after them and help them get the information that they need.
Despite smaller than expected deliveries of the vaccines thus far, Hillier expects an increase in March to coincide with the expanded vaccine rollout, which also includes seniors in congregate care and all Indigenous adults. Reporting live, I'm Michelle Mackey.
This is 680 News. One of the world's most famous and wealthiest celebrity couples has filed for divorce. 680's Madison Fitzpatrick joins us live with the latest on the end of Kimye. Madison.
What?
Yeah, so Jenna, well, Kim Kardashian West officially filed for divorce from Kanye West just this morning.
Wow.
Kim, the reality TV star, and rapper Kanye are ending their almost 7-year marriage. Sources say Kim is asking for a joint legal and physical custody, and she and Kanye are committed to co-parenting together. This was Kanye's first marriage and Kim's third. The couple has 4 young children, North, Chicago, Saint, and Psalm. Earlier this year, rumors began to swirl that Kim was considering separating from the long-time rapper as their marriage was said to be on the rocks following multiple outbursts from Kanye on social media while he was campaigning for the 2020 presidency. During that time, Kim urged the public to have compassion for West as he struggled with mental illness. Now, fans on social media are now wondering, will this divorce lead to another makeup line from Kim or another inspirational album from Kanye? Only time will tell.
Reporting live, I'm Madison Fitzpatrick.
This is 60 News. The city has applied for a court-ordered hopes will help prevent people from building what it calls unsafe wooden structures and leaving them on city property.
The city of Toronto says it went to the courts to prevent any more wooden shelters for the homeless from showing up in city parks. In fact, the city filed for a court injunction 5 days before a shelter like that burned down on Adelaide Street Wednesday morning, leaving one man dead. City spokesperson Brad Ross, Toronto.
We're not going to go in and evict somebody from one of these structures. But when one of these structures is abandoned and there's clearly nobody using it, the city will make every effort to remove it.
Ross says if people leave their box and go into the shelter system, they gain access to medical care, food, clean clothing, and more. The court injunction is pending. The city is still waiting on a hearing date. I'm Mark Douglas.
Gas prices are next.
Your news now on your radio, online, and on your smart speaker.
Play 680 News.
Hi, Anthony Longo here. This year, we've all been craving comfort food, which is why we've made feeding your family more comfortable too. We'd love to see you at any one of our stores at Gateway. And if you're looking for prepared meals on nights that you'd rather not cook, you can order takeout at longos.com or find us on Uber Eats. For quality that meets your family's standards, no matter how you...
Gas price update and Pro predicting the price will drop a cent at midnight to just under $1.22 a liter. Traffic and weather together next.
You know, we should move here.
Maple Auto Mall?
Well, yeah, look at this neighborhood. 9 different dealerships.
You spend all your time looking at cars.
And trucks.
We can't live at Maple Auto Mall.
Well, give me one good reason.
Well, for one thing, no daycare.
What are you trying to tell me? You're not...
I am.
You are?
We are.
We're gonna need a bigger car.
Finest cars for all. Maple Auto Mall. Part of the Zankin Auto Group.
At jackpotcity.net, you can do amazing things with just one casino chip. Discover a world of incredible casino games with over 500 high-quality online slot games, including the world-renowned progressive jackpot slot, Mega Moolah. Play for free at jackpotcity.net and get treated as a VIP 24/7. So visit jackpotcity.net today on your tablet, laptop, or mobile. Jackpot City, a whole world of casino games. 18 plus. Please play responsibly. This is not a gambling website.
60 News Time, 5:41.
Traffic and weather together on the ones brought to you by Jaguar and Chopper 680. Here's Jordan Cook.
You're going to find delays on the eastbound 401 through Mississauga Road, and then from the 427 to the 400 to both Express and Collectors, a delay east of Victoria Park and Kennedy in the Collectors. And while delays are improving, it's still a heavy drive through Durham from approaching Salem to Harmony. So basically out of Ajax into Whitby and into Oshawa, heavy drive right now. Westbound 401, that's slow going, approaching Islington and the Express to Dixon, then west of Huron-Ontario Express Mavis Collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. From the 680 Traffic Center, here's Zach Steve.
Well, things are easing up a bit across the GTA. Jordan mentioned that on the 401. I'm seeing that again on the westbound Gardner. Delays now approaching Jarvis to west of Strawn. Then on the west QEW from Burloak to west of Guelph Line. West 403, meantime, still this issue on the ramp to the QEW. Right lane blocked to the crash, so that's slow from west of Dundas. Volume on the northbound 410 from Steeles to Beauvert, and eastbound QEW slow approaching Bronte to Ford Drive. Northbound Don Valley Parkway delays north of Don Mills to York Mills, and northbound 400 slow right now from Langstaff to the King en route. Receive rates as low as 0% or savings up to $10,000 on remaining 2020 vehicles during the Jaguar Impeccable Timing Sales Event. Contact your Jaguar authorized retailer for details. With the forecast, here's Natasha Ranzahai.
Right, the heaviest of this burst of evening flurries is over us right now, so it's going to get lighter over the next hour and then taper off later this evening. May see some flurries returning in the morning, though. This is actually coming in off of Lake Huron. It's lake effect. We are down to minus 11 degrees, so wind chill minus 16 in the morning with those flurries, and then some sunny breaks in the afternoon. We should be dry through the latter part of Saturday and a high of -2, and mainly sunny Sunday, watching for a little bit of lake effect snow along the Lake Ontario shoreline. That's early Sunday morning. Otherwise, with the sun Sunday, we're up to -3 and prepare for more snow. The next system moves in Sunday night. Tonight, we're down to a low of minus 11 degrees. It is currently -3, feeling like -6 at Pearson.
Now the Dynamic Funds Market Minute to the Business Center. Here is Richard Southern.
I believe we're putting a bow on the week already. Good week for
Webster Bay Street, the TSX up another 110 points today, settling out at 18,384. Dow Jones Industrial Average up just a point, S&P down 7, NASDAQ up 9. Not a whole lot cooking on the New York financial markets today. A lot cooking with the digital currency that is Bitcoin. It trades above 55.21 cents US. So Janet and James will have their headlines. We got sports and more news. Next up, 680.
When it comes to investing, it's time to consider the alternatives. Dynamic Funds sees diversification differently. Ask a financial advisor how and learn more at dynamic.ca/advice.
Why pay more? Switch your current alarm system to the monitoring center today and take advantage of our wholesale monitoring rates starting as low as $9.99 per month. Call for your free quotation. Think the monitoring center for your home security. Switch your alarm system to the monitoring center today and save. Think security? Think the monitoring center. Why? Because we care.
1-866-24-7 or $9.99. 1-866-24-7 or $9.99.
As students return to classrooms, we have taken steps to help ensure schools have been made as safe as possible. Ontario's School Safety Plan has been developed in consultation with the Chief Medical Officer of Health. Further protections to prevent the spread of COVID-19 include strengthened masking requirements, targeted testing, and stricter student screening. To learn more about school health and safety measures, please visit ontario.ca/reopening schools. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Why are we doing any of this? Number one for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
It's snowing in downtown Toronto, -2 degrees right now. Good afternoon. I'm Sljana Tominczyk.
And I'm James Monroe. Here's what's making news right now.
Premier reports as 2 GTA COVID hotspots will remain in lockdown for at least another 2 weeks.
Dr. Davila, Dr. Lowe, they're on the ground. It's my responsibility to support them.
Toronto and Peel regions will remain under a stay-at-home order until at least March 8th. Mayor Tory and Dr. Davila both say this is the right move for Toronto, given the ongoing concern about variants. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business not happy with the province's decision. They want to see small retailers allowed to reopen immediately in Toronto, Peel, and North Bay. As for COVID vaccines, the province says those 80 years of age and older will be able to get the shot if they want one starting next month. And it's the end of Kimye. Powerhouse couple Kim Kardashian and Kanye West have officially filed for divorce.
What will the grounds do?
Time now for 680 Sports.
From Sports
I think the judge should deny it. I think the judge should deny
The
it.
Toronto Raptors just swept their 2-game series with the Milwaukee Bucks, and Michael Grange says going with that small lineup has worked nicely.
Given the shortcomings on the roster, maybe you just sort of end up and go, this is what we're going to do. And there's going to be some nights against some matchups that really have some punished. But the reality is those matchups we're probably going to punish anyway.
Like a model today that people expect us to be at the Tesla tomorrow. This is
Raptors on the road in Minnesota tonight. Sportsnet 590 fan will have it at 9 o'clock. Kyle Lowry is questionable, and Patrick McCaw is probable. Meantime, Blue Jays manager Charlie